Good morning, everybody. This is the Oskar Quentin Show, where I debate politics with strangers on TikTok. I hope today that somebody calls in and tries to defend their president of choice, Donald Trump, because the entire community is having this problem lately where we can't find anybody who actually seriously in good faith is willing to just defend that they want this guy to be the fucking president. So if that happens, there'll be a timestamp in the pinned comment for those of you watching this after the fact on YouTube showing when the first oppositional call starts, and more detailed timestamps in the description. My goodness, I cannot talk today. I didn't do my warm-ups. We've got Jesse in the producer chair today, so W's in the chat for Jesse, and Raven timestamping at home because the show has staff. So thanks everybody for the donations, including Max, who sent $25 on Buy Me a Coffee during the off hours because he's a VOD watcher. He says, "Hey Oscar, I'm watching your show with the neo-Nazis and wanted to support you." Oh no, did I just demonetize my YouTube video by saying neo-Nazis in the first couple of minutes of it? We'll see. Doesn't matter. Not that big a deal. Shit happens. Actually, lately I've been really impressed with YouTube not demonetizing my content. Maybe I'll grow and they'll get more strict on me. We shall see. But I'm going to get the multi-guest request queue open. And guys, I miss my Trump callers. It's all Nazis and rapists calling in. It's all neo-libertarian phalangists and other such Philbro. Oh, sorry, Jesse, my controls. Whoopsie daisy. We both went to use the mouse at the same time. That's how this works, everybody. She has the same keyboard and mouse as me, same monitor as me on the other side of the room, so she can do stuff. I just wanted to get the request queue open. Hello, Suki. Good morning. You're not a Trump supporter. If you could comprehend the sorts of things he does, you wouldn't be about it. Rare treat seeing Suki on the desk. It's usually Scout. This is my old girl. She's like 13 or 14 now. Hello, Suki. Good morning. Oh, and we've got a couple members over on, or a new member over on YouTube. Welcome, USB-C D360. And then Kronos sent $10 to add, "I'll be here in spirit, but I'll have to watch the VOD because my coworker likes me too much, so I gotta take my lunch with her. Have a great stream, Oscar and Jesse." W's in the chat for Kronos. Best of luck with that, buddy. All right, let's see. Is anybody in the... Jesse, how am I to interpret this? Or was that Suki typing on the keyboard? Oh yeah, Suki's typing into the little message box that the producer uses to talk to me during the show. Cats are messing with the show. That's okay. Oh, and then the other thing I always forget to do right at the beginning of the show, I've been putting Oskar Quentin 2 in the corner of every episode so that people can follow the backup account. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different today, which is that I am going to put my other backup account in the request queue, Oskar Quentin Music. So the idea there, just get myself muted. The idea there is that the follows really slowed down on the other account, which I think just meant it was time to switch over because most of the people watching this already follow that account. So you're probably not following this one. Make sure you're following Oskar Quentin Music. That'll be one of the backup accounts available to me to do the show on. The goal is to get those two backup accounts, Oskar Quentin 2 and Oskar Quentin Music, up to 10,000 followers so that I can have 3 like flagship accounts so that I'm a little more impervious to the ban here on TikTok because we worry about that stuff all the time. Linktree in the bio for pay links and all that stuff, as well as those backup accounts are at the bottom if you want to make sure you're following me everywhere so that you can keep finding me after they start taking me down. Hasn't happened yet. We're going to talk to @Gabucci101, and I am going to have to hover this disconnect button because we have had a lot of trolls lately in the scene. Let us see if this is a debate. Can we start with a good debate? It's been a while since we started an episode with a good debate. How old are you?
I'm 37, and I already showed my face.
Yeah, he did. He was the first
last time.
Yeah. I think I remember you were pro-fascism. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't take you very seriously. You were chuckling and eating food like violently into the microphone for the entire show. I don't think that you take this seriously. I think it's a shame that you don't care that your identity's out there supporting these things. But I just like using the social skills I have, get the general impression that you don't give a shit about any of this, and it's just fun for you to call in and like mess with people like me who like have empathy and care about the suffering of people in this country.
I mean, bro, they're illegals.
I'm sorry.
They're breaking the law.
Okay, it's a misdemeanor. Do you think we should deport people who speed? Do you think we should arrest everybody for ever having smoked the green substance that before it was made legal in the states they live in? Like, no, dude, I don't take it fucking seriously. Your position on this is just unprincipled. Like, you don't have a good argument for this. You're not willing to engage with any of it. Like, what's the point of talking to you? Oh, he's gone. I was looking at my own account because it's a different profile picture than's normally in the corner, so I didn't think about it. Mine is a little out of frame. Let's see. It was a little low. It was low is the issue, right?
No. It's just always like...
Oh, I think the camera got nudged slightly. No, that's too much.
Rear view of Oscar's legs.
What do you mean? People see me 2 hours a day. All right, we do have other people in the request queue though, so let's keep rolling here. We got NOMMBOR Nombor. Suki, why are you being so social today? How old are you?
24.
Do you support Trump?
Yes.
Why is that?
Anyway, you asked me last time I was on here to show my face, so I'd like to take this opportunity to reveal my identity.
I'm a little worried because you're on a different account. Wait, hold on. I'm actually going to kick you for safety. And the reason I'm doing that, everybody, is because I know I haven't seen this username, but I recognize the voice. So he's come back on a burner account to show his face proudly when he wouldn't before. We were all about to see a dick. Not happening today. We're going to talk to Snowy with a 0. Hello, how old are you?
I'm underage, but like, please don't take me.
No, dude, come on. Seriously, what did I just say? Like, whether it's a dick or a child, they're things that don't belong on this show. Dom2Shifty67, DOM2Shifty67, all one word.
Wing low.
We're going to talk to Guard Dog, who I said was a hater. Here's what happened. I remember you accidentally F-slurred. You slur and ran, but you didn't mean to do it. So I talked shit about you for a moment for using the F-slur on my show out of impulse, because I think that's just shitty of you.
That's totally justified.
Yeah, fair. How old are you again?
33.
Let's clarify a couple things, because I don't even remember exactly what we talked about yesterday. You are a Trump supporter, right?
No, I'm not.
Oh, and it was R slur, not F slur. Chat's correcting me on that. I misremembered. Unimportant, I don't think. Anyway, you're not a Trump supporter?
That's correct. I'm not a Trump supporter. Actually, I don't
Guard Dog interests me. Sorry, Guard Dog, for cutting you off right away. And I know I did want to continue our conversation, and you, like, you didn't mean to slur and run. You just slurred, and that meant I had to kick you. I'm doing a thing today where we're going to try to talk to some fucking Trump supporters. Like, you guys may have noticed my patience is a little short today. I've had a couple people in the chat, like, or in the YouTube comments be like, oh, Oscar's starting to lose his temper more. Oscar had a big, spectacular crash out on Sunday. Very proud of the crash out. Go watch the video. There's kind of just an ebb and flow to this. Like, I've been doing this for 5 months now, almost every day, every single day for like 3 or 4 months. And just, you know, like, we kind of ride the wave in terms of what the trolls are up to and all that stuff. And I take different approaches to all of this based on what's going on in the scene. And right now, the approach that I need to have in order to keep this show effective is a impatient one. It is a faster paced one. It is a little bit more Dean Withers style than I normally run the show. But we're going through a situation where the trolls are overwhelming the actual callers. And I'm just going to cut through the bullshit and say, no, you either need to proudly support Trump and want to talk to me about why you support Trump, or get the fuck off my show, because this is a show about American politics. And if we need to change up the structure, like Dean's talking about that, like people are talking about changing up how we do this. I know we need to get a phone number on the screen. I'm just trying to schedule a long enough gap between shows where I have a full day to unplug everything and get all that set up. And I also need a burner phone, an additional burner phone for the way that I'm planning on doing it. So there's some tech stuff to work out with that. Thank you, generally speaking. Jen over on YouTube, she's a mod. She sent somebody a gift membership. Welcome to the members only club, members only stream, Sunday PM. Anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna really, today's the mission is to just actually talk to somebody who fucking supports Trump. Does such a person exist? Call in. We're going to see if cool gamer girl 3 is a Trump supporter. Nigger. See, like, that's what we're talking about, right? So, like, if we need to change up how the show is run, like, that's fine. We can do that. But yeah, we are, like, when I started doing this, I was amazed by, like, streaming with like 20, 30 viewers and still having people call in and just really genuinely want to talk about this stuff, just really genuinely want to talk about what they believe in and like what's going on in the news. And it's just, I figured that it would become easier to get people wanting to call in and engage now that I'm, like, compared to how big I was then, I'm like enormous. I'm 10 times bigger. 100 times bigger compared to the first like month. So I do think there just is a change in the discourse, and I think that like actual rational people who aren't total pieces of shit are genuinely afraid of talking about it, even if they do support the guy. I think there's just like a tail between the legs thing going on right now. So we're gonna see if Dinge Nutavia is DingeNutavia. We're going to see if they're a Trump supporting guard dog. Again, I see you, but I'm just really the mission. I was talking with the producer, and the mission today is just going to be to get a Trump supporter on the line, and you're not it. So, you know, it's like I ask for Trump supporters and I get children yelling the N-word. That's the state of America as it sits. So, you know, W is in the chat for people who don't slur. And yeah, the way the queue is filling up, I feel like we are just going to be batting trolls, which, you know, if they succeed, it'll be a short show today because I'll get banned and then we'll be back tomorrow. King Cooper 661. I'm going to see if I have good reason to hover the disconnect button on him. Hello, how old are you? Hello? You're live. Hello? Oh, no, he's gone. We can talk to Wiccan, Wiccn. I'm going to see if they're going to cast a spell on me to make me believe in Trump. Hello, how old are you?
Fuck Trump and fuck you, bro.
All right. Yeah, well, whatever. Pick a lane, buddy. Nice boy, cool zero. Is that the same person as nice girl? Fucking probably. So we're going to...
Just let me screen them really quick. Hold on. I can screen people too.
That's right. I have a fucking producer. Do your job, Jesse.
I was literally trying to like warn you.
Do your job by speaking in... If you're going to bitch at me live on the air, do it into the microphone, Jesse. You're mic'd for a reason. People want the banter.
Okay, well, I blocked the one girl, and I can't see that account.
Well, get on... Wait, no, you're talking microphone. I meant it. People want to hear you.
I blocked that one account, and now this one that you're referring to is not showing up. So I would say they probably share a phone number.
We're going to talk to Muskie GT, M.USKIE_GT.
What's
Hello,
up, you fucking fag?
Anyway, we're going to talk to Dolly Farton, who's almost certainly a troll, right? Is this what we're going to do? We're going to sit here and take donations and talk to children all day? Hello, Dolly Farton. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Are you a Trump supporter?
No, are you?
Looking for Trump supporters. Call in and defend Trump. I didn't go with a snappy, like, rage bait. I just, straightforwardly, the instructions are to call in and defend Trump. So, how you donate, thank you. You know what? We're actually just going to do the mid-roll while we let the trolls pile up so my producer can get some of them screened. Linktree in the bio if you want to support the show for free by following me on all the other platforms. If you're watching live on TikTok right now, I just put the second backup account. It's been Oskar Quentin 2 up here for like weeks, but the follows really slowed down on that, so you can support me by following this backup account, because if we get banned because of these trolls, it's going to be one of these backup accounts that you're going to see the red ring on for the new show. So I really want that show to be a success, even though it's going to be lower viewership and lower callers. I just want it to work at all. So get following on there, or all the other platforms you can find in the link tree in the bio. And additionally, in the link tree in the bio, you can find the things that aren't free, like sending me money on Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, or Patreon. Buy Me a Coffee is international. A lot of people have been asking, how do you support if you don't live in America? And it'll just take a credit card or a debit card or whatever on Buy Me a Coffee. So that is the way. Nice Boy Cool says scared to debate me. How are you not seeing that account? Are you not able to screen it?
I am literally not seeing it, and I told you
in the mic.
Reported the one account.
In the mic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I reported the first account, and now this one is like just straight up not showing up for me. So I think it blocked everything.
Banned account with the same phone number.
Yeah, I do think so.
Can you do the same phone number with two accounts? We just had the issue because I just applied for my blue check mark on here, which there are news stories about me. So
I can't understand why else it's also 28 followers and private. So I can't really screen them very well being private, but I do think it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, and we're doing the camera on for bigotry thing, and like we're just getting to a point where it's like, yeah, there's an ocean of burner accounts that kids are using to scream the N-word on political debate platforms. I'm sorry, maybe if you want to participate in discourse in America, you need to like not be a fucking coward so that you don't get lost in the sea of trolls. If you're getting lost in the sea of trolls, it's your fucking fault. Like, be better. Show that you're an actual person who gives a shit. Like, defend what you believe in.
The top one though is at least somebody's real account. So
yeah, I can't say the username because it has a substance name in it. But it's just, and then the technical term for a substance that I happen to really enjoy, but I'm not allowed to talk about on TikTok because it's a substance. So thank you for the $45 DKK. Jesse, would you look up what the hell that currency is? Because I
did before. They gave you the conversion correctly. It's...
Oh, okay. They put it right in the message. They said the currency on DKK is 6.5 to 1. So just for future reference, love the show. So thank you for the 45 DKK. Now I can do the math in my head. Appreciate you very much. 7093211 on YouTube Super Chat. Seriously. And oh my God, did somebody gift 5 memberships? Did I miss that? Snake over here. Also, like, MVP running the news show on the Discord, so like some fucking W's in the chat for Snake. All right, we're gonna talk to Well, It's Just, and then the word I can't say, and hover in the disconnect button because no, there doesn't exist a sensible Trump supporter anymore. How old are you?
Oh, I'm old. I'm unk, bro. I'm 35.
Do you support Trump?
I support his political actions.
Okay, so like you're happy that he's president. You're glad that he's president instead of Kamala Harris, right?
Absolutely.
All right, give me a reason why.
Well, because it's just an opinionated system, I'm going to go with what I feel has been the most successful use of our military in any presidency in the modern era.
I'm just detecting some trolliness. The chat is already lighting up. Let's just go camera on really quick, and then we can continue.
Oh, dude, dang it, let me stand up. I got to move away from these plants.
Oh, you know what? No,
Good call, thank you.
Did I hear a zipper? He's leaving a tent. Sick.
Yeah, you did. It's the clean chamber. I put a tent to prevent any contamination into the main area.
Guys, everybody's saying that you don't sound 35. You don't sound like a kid to me, actually. You do sound a little young voiced, but like, we're not that different in age, you and me. I'll be 31 this month. Like, I believe him. And I did just hear him leave a tent full of what it says in his username, I think. So anyway.
There's that camera. I have bad footage. Sorry, guys.
Wait, hold on.
I'm up in the mountains like a real man.
I've invited you to turn your camera on. I'm not seeing it. You should have a button on your screen.
Oh, I'm not seeing it. Let me do this again. Boom. No effect. How do I? Well, dude, this is my unk showing right here. I got an effect on the damn thing.
There we go. Is that
better? All right, out in the woods. All right, because I'm on a USDA facility, I'd like to kind of shut this down, not to show my face.
Just wanted your face for a second. You've convinced me maybe that this is going to be a more serious conversation, so you can go ahead and turn your camera off if you want. I just wanted it up for a moment. Thank you, Mr. Francie, for for sending 5 gift memberships over on YouTube. I think I can turn your camera off. I can do it. There we go. Okay.
Thank you, man. I'm not much on... Oh, shit.
Okay. You seem chill. Why the fuck do you support Trump?
So it's a bias, right? Everyone has a personal bias when it comes to things. So personally, right? I was in the Army, right? I had friends that were messed up. I was messed up. And a lot of those actions were caused by our political class, a 20-year war. You were alive during 9/11, and how many friends, I don't think a lot of your friends might have gone in, but the amount of people that went in.
My dad went into work that day, and the building he walked into wasn't there at the end of the day.
That's true. There's that too. So for me, I look at how successful his use of our military force has been when it comes to saving American lives.
That's absurd.
There have been. Well, I mean, you look at just the sheer statistical numbers. We look at the Maduro arrest, and there were 0 casualties on our side for that. That is, if we want to say like, regardless of presidency, that shows American money. To correct
the chat, my dad did not die in 9/11. He drank himself to death about it after the fact because of how many people he saw die that day. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's PTSD. That fucking sucks. So it's like people don't understand what they haven't experienced truly.
Right. Let's talk about Maduro. Why did Donald Trump pardon the Honduran president for the same charges that he arrested that week Maduro for by invading his country and capturing him?
I would say you gotta look at who's trying to push what. It would be,
he arrested one president
I get what you're saying.
For drug-related crimes, and he pardoned another. So can we just, if you're going to explain that, is your explanation going to be that the reasons, like the actual charges are bullshit, and he's just trying to do something else by using those charges?
100%. That's what every politician does.
We don't want.
Oh, well.
We don't. No, that's a weaponization of the justice system. We don't want bullshit charges to be used by the president to accomplish their political will. Are you seriously defending that?
So wait. Well, then the same thing happened with Kamala Harris and her false use
Kamala.
of
No.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala. Thank you.
Thank you. She used false information while she was the DA, forged false evidence to put people away. So that's the same thing, using your political power.
Whoa.
To
Hold on. I am sure that sort of thing happened under the jurisdiction that she was district attorney of, because that type of corruption or mistakes or whatever happens to some degree. There's like a fraud rate, there's like a corruption rate in just about every large system. Are you saying that because she was responsible for an area where that sort of thing happened, because you can obviously find examples of those sorts of things happening, is that what you're blaming her for? Or are you actually accusing her of going into the evidence locker and falsifying evidence?
She signed the documents okaying the evidence. So if you sign the thing that says, yeah, bomb this, you're just as guilty as the person that hit the button.
Okay.
Like there's no good or bad. There's nuances to it, obviously.
No. So you're using some arguments against Kamala Harris that I don't think that you would use against Donald Trump, because if we say that something that has her signature on it means that she approves of every step taken along the way that got that piece of paper to her desk, and we just ignore the fact that people who are in charge of things are leaders of large systems where people below them can make sense, that means that you're also going to make sure that Donald Trump is completely culpable for the school we bombed in Iran, right?
Well,
because he signed off on that.
He did sign off on bombing a school. Can you look that up where he signed off specifically to hit the school?
I think you're getting around.
That's a large claim.
I think you're getting around it by saying that he didn't sign. I'm answering. He didn't sign a piece of paper that said "Please bomb the school" on it. But
exactly.
But he did support the actions of Pete Hegseth, who did that, and he also lied to the public about what happened with that school. He's blaming Iran, but that's fucking nonsense. There's clear evidence that it was us and not them. So again, the exact details are look. Specifically, my claim is that you're saying that Kamala Harris is responsible for everything that happens under her, but you're sitting here defending Donald Trump, who's for some reason not responsible for the school bombing that happened under him.
That's the same thing. You're trying to make it seem like it's different. It's the same thing. Both people on top signed that it is okay to do something, but you're trying to say that he specifically said to bomb the school with no evidence. There is evidence that the IRGC did it.
Is there evidence that Kamala Harris said, yes, please falsify this evidence?
100%. She got charged.
Source. Was she charged? Was she convicted?
Oh, that don't mean shit when you're rich.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. I'm pretty sure that. Okay, that's at least consistent, because I'm sure that you don't care that Donald Trump has been found guilty of doing some bad things.
Yeah, everyone likes going to this one.
Actually, if we're going to talk about criminal convictions, I was going to talk about his 34 felony counts, because we're talking about convictions.
No, rich people do hella shit, dude. Rich people do hella shit.
I think what I'm detecting in this call is that you are quick to point out these things when it comes to somebody like Kamala Harris.
You're doing the same thing. I know where you're leading to, and you're doing the same thing.
I'm pointing out that you don't value these things the same. It matters when it happens to Harris, but you're going to slide it off the table when it happens to Trump. I think that's
well, you're doing the same exact thing. You're just trying to wrap it around the tree, saying, oh, what Kamala Harris did was not as bad as what Trump did. People lost their lives in both cases.
Right.
So it's irrelevant to say, one is better than the other.
Where is Kamala Harris in public denying that this thing happened at all, whereas Trump is lying about Iran having Tomahawk missiles to explain the fact that a school got bombed? He's lying about the double tap. Like, he's openly supporting these things. I can give more examples of bad behavior happening under the Trump administration where he has directly either defended it completely or in the more casual way, more forgivable way, technically signed off of it by being in charge of somebody who made that sort of mistake. And you're blowing off
that Obama did the same thing to a school with drones and weddings.
I talk all the time about how I am highly critical of Obama's use of drones, and he has been retired for 10 years, and you're bringing him up as a whatabout because I think I have you reasonably cornered on the
you're bringing up Kamala like a whatabout. It's the same thing. She's irrelevant.
She was the alternative to Trump, and
it's irrelevant. It didn't happen.
But she could be president. It didn't happen. She could be president now, but she's not. So that's the comparison.
It's irrelevant because it didn't happen. Should have, could have.
Why do you keep interrupting me?
Why does everyone try to use a pretend future?
Stop. Take a breath. This isn't a functional
I
conversation.
think you should need to take a breath also. You're bringing up stuff and try to wrap around the tree as it doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to interrupt and talk over you to point out the fact that you're interrupting me and talking over me too much. I'm allowed to do it. I'm the host of the show. I'm guiding the conversation.
Yes, it's right, a show, not a debate.
One of the reasons hundreds of people watch me every day is because I'm good at making the conversation understandable to people.
You're an entertainer, not a debater.
Listen, we both understand some of our talking points, and we're doing this thing right now where when I detect what your talking point is, I might know the direction we're going, but I still give the audience members who don't know all of these talking points a chance to follow along. You are failing to do that, and you don't realize it makes you look like a total fucking nincompoop to most people, because most people aren't experts on all these talking points. I'm criticizing your ability to communicate your own argument.
No matter what you say, you've already dropped your value in my mind, because you went to an insult right away. I don't care what my value
to me is. I care about my audience understanding your perspective.
You as an individual were right to insult instead of using your intellectual capability.
Perspective, and you are failing to cooperate in this conversation in a way that makes your perspective clear to people. But if you are unwilling to let me run the show in a way that allows my audience to understand exactly what you mean when you say the things you say, you're going to hit the run button and leave. Goodbye. Everybody, go to the link tree in my bio if you think I'm good at commanding control in these conversations without using the mute button, because I do not like using the mute button. Yeah, the Discord's blowing up with other examples I could have used in that conversation, but that's just not how it's going to go. Talking to somebody like that he was gish galloping fundamentally. That's the strategy he was using. We weren't allowed to stay on a single topic for more than one fucking sentence. He had to move on to the next one, and he thought that made him look good. And I don't need to say it. The chat's calling him a runner. Goodbye. Thanks for the donations, everybody. Are there any new ones for me to read? I don't even know. There are. Look at that. Thank you, Stephen, for the $10 on Venmo. Thank you, Noodle, for interrupting my show. W's in the chat for my dog, Noodle. She's going to protect me when the chuds come to assassinate me. For $10, she said, "Thank you for a show of utmost quality. Hope to speak with you one day. Stay safe, good sir." Friendly time happens at the end sometimes. You can call in at the end of the show and chat if you want. I do like getting my flowers from the community. Makes me happy after talking to the chuds all day. David sent me, "Guest shit talks Kamala, skips over Biden to bring up Obama. I smell a hint of racism." Good point. Yeah, we did skip over the only white guy on the list. Michael, or is it Michael or Michelle? Michael sent $5 on Venmo to say, "Been on the show before. My username is Diddy Kong Shrek. I called trying to get advice on how to become informed. Question: chances you can live stream at different hours than 10 to 12 Central Time? I work 8 to 4 ET every day, and it's hard to stay tuned. Love the show. Keep up the great work." Well, I know the live show is more fun than the post-show podcast version, the VOD on YouTube, but that is an option. I am looking to add like a floating evening stream. Like right now I'm doing 9 streams a week, 7 daily streams, 10 to 12 Central Time here on Oskar Quentin. And then we have the evening show, which is 7 p.m. Central Time, only on YouTube to get past the censors. And that's like special guests and stuff like that. And then we do the members only stream. The next thing that will get added is a floating debate stream that's at a different time for people like you, and to get the other callers who are just not available to call in during this time. So that is like on deck for me to do. And thanks for the Cash App donations. We've got Autumn, who sent me $2 to say thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for doing what you're doing, Autumn. You're supporting the show. It's happening because of people like you. And Tyler sent me $10 to say new to finding you and love the content. Thank you so much, Tyler. I really do appreciate it. Because seriously, I wouldn't get to do this at all if it weren't for the fact that people are like, wow, that Oskar guy is really good at talking to the chuds. We ought to send him some money so he doesn't have to work a different job. And I don't. I do this all day, and I love it. I kind of hate it, but I kind of love it. I don't know. It's exciting and disappointing. We're going to talk to Jerry Vick, and we're going to see if we get a serious debate. Because that was almost a serious debate, but he just ran the moment I pointed out what he was doing, which to me doesn't really satisfy the conditions of somebody who's really willing to engage with their own beliefs in Trump. Noodle. She's just laying on the floor demanding pets from my producer. I love you, Noodle. You helpless little thing. Jerry Vick, I don't think he meant to join the request queue because he's not joining. He's probably teacup, so I'm going to disconnect him and we're going to talk to Gray. I can never remember. Is this the American or the British spelling of Gray? Which is which? Anyway.
This is the American spelling.
Okay, how old
with
are you?
An A. 18. Just turned 18, actually.
I hear some confidence in your voice. I believe you. Do you support Trump?
I do, but I want to specifically talk about ICE. Not even necessarily Trump, but like more specific.
I'm probably going to try to bring it back to Trump, and it's all pretty tied up for some of the reasons I said to the previous caller about Trump defending the things that are happening under his administration. But sure, we can start with ICE as a topic.
So first I have a question for you, and that is, do you necessarily oppose ICE as like a political entity or just like recent action that they've taken.
Yeah, not necessarily against the idea of immigration and customs enforcement in the same way that I'm not against having police, even though I think that like policing is deeply broken in America. I recognize that society needs this type of law enforcement. I'm upset with the current ICE.
Okay, I actually 100% agree with you, and I dislike Trump. I was just wondering if you thought like ICE in general was bad, because I've heard people like be like, abolish immigration's customs enforcement, and I disagree with that.
I actually support that movement because I think it's so fucking broken because of what's happening right now that there's no way to transition it back to being okay. We need to abolish it and replace it with something else.
I see. So you don't think it's savable at this point? It needs to be what, reformed? Or
I think anybody any human being who works for ICE is a motherfucker for not quitting their job, and whatever's next to replace them to enforce the new immigration laws that I want to have in this country over the next few years. I don't want any single one of those people working at the new system. So no, abolish it, restart.
I actually have a friend whose dad is an ICE agent. He's a great guy, but
he's a motherfucker is what he is, because he hasn't quit his job because of what they're doing. I mean it.
I think that people are more misinformed than they are bad people. I tend to be more like optimistic.
No, he's not listening. If it's his job, I'm sure he's aware of what's going on. I don't care where at ICE he works. I don't care what level. I don't care if he's an ICE agent or if he's somebody who shook hands with Kristi Noem before she was fired. He is failing his civic duty to understand the effects of what an organization that he works at is doing. It'd be like saying that, like, yeah, I worked in the Nazi Party in 1939. I didn't do anything bad to Jews. I was just doing paperwork. I was just sweeping the floors. I was just whatever your job was. No. You need to recognize when you're participating in it with something that is truly evil. And if you're doing that, I don't give a fuck how big your paycheck is. I don't give a fuck how hard a time you're going to have paying for your college tuition for your kids if you quit your job. You dive on that grenade. You be a true American and you put your own life and prosperity and pursuit of happiness on the line to protect the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of others. Fuck that guy for not quitting his job. Fuck every single one of them.
You know what? I actually respect that take. I haven't thought about it like that. The Nazi thing that you brought up. Okay, one last question and then I'll get going. What do you propose we do? So you say what? Defund ICE, right?
Well, specifically, defund isn't even it, because we can take the funding and ball it into paying for something better that replaces them. Because I'm not saying like open borders, let everybody in. I'm saying we need to like obviously fix how we regulate immigration in this country, because the way we've been doing it has resulted in a situation that a great many people are upset about. I just don't think that deporting all the illegal immigrants that are here is a sensible solution. I don't think that there's a group that like is for whom that really is optimized, except for maybe the wealthy people who are trying to scapegoat the immigrant for the things that the billionaires have done to the economy. Other than that very privileged group, I really just don't think anybody benefits from that. So there's really a two-pronged approach to this discussion that I always consider, which is never mind ICE for a second, never mind the constitutional violations. I don't like the immigration policies that it is their job to enforce. I could be okay with ICE if they were enforcing those laws in a way that I didn't think was horribly dangerous and unconstitutional and immoral, even if I was like upset about the effect of it. It's like a police officer, enforcing a law that I don't like. I don't necessarily blame the police. So but before we finish, it's just, do I like the immigration policies? That's one. And then do I like the way they're being enforced? That's two. I consider them separate issues, but I'm fucking pissed about both of them.
Got it. So you're not necessrobbed anti-deportation, just mass deportation.
If you illegally immigrated to this country and robbed a convenience store with a firearm, sure, I'm not defending those people. I don't think we need those people. I think deportation's reasonable in that sort of case, and cases worse than that, obviously. I just think the vast majority of these people are just humans trying to fucking feed their kids like almost everybody else on Earth. And those people are really good for the economy. People are very motivated to support the economies in which they live if they're motivated by feeding their families.
I think we actually completely agree. I was under the pretense that you were like abolish borders and things of that nature. Because
very, very few people on the left are actually trying to promote that as a pragmatic approach to the situation. Yeah. And the reason that I've heard it. So few people so few people on the right accurately understand what I want for border control and immigration in this country, because they're unwilling to sit and have a good faith conversation with me.
And nobody really I feel like most people think immigrants are like violent criminals, but I read the study on like how they're 2.5 times less likely to commit a violent crime. That kind of changed my stance on it. So
Yeah, the data is just not there on the claims made by the right. And as I pointed out a second ago, if we look, we can extend that historical example about the Nazis, which is that they blamed the problems of their administration on a minority group that they could subjugate. And that's exactly what's happening here in America. When we look at the things that the right is blaming the immigrant for, it's literally things that the billionaire has done to the economy and to the country and to our politics. And that's fucking obvious if you have a historical lens, which I do, because I read my history.
So I actually think we agree, man. I appreciate you letting me on here.
W. Callar. W. Gray. How weird. No, that's exciting. Maybe I'm taking the right approach today with this, like, absolutely no nonsense, like, no, call in and fucking disagree with me. That was a call where I think that the caller was just good enough faith to recognize what happens a lot on this show when we get a good faith caller, which is like we talk about what we want and then we get to the end and it's like, yeah, that is actually what the Democrats want. Like, never mind that the Democrats are evil and that I hate them and that they've biffed a lot in this country and that they're bad to the global South. That we can address after the midterms. But, like, just in terms of this left and right thing that's happening domestically, like when we talk about what we actually want for people in the country, if you're reasonable and you care about the suffering of others, you tend to land in a position that's, like, pretty close to what somebody like me wants, pretty close to something that what, like, the farther left leaning Democrats want, which are, like, the few people who I actually support. Somebody's saying I'm mature for a young guy. I always have to point out I'm not a kid. I'm 30. Will be 31 in a couple of weeks. So I get compared a lot to a lot of the younger voices on here, and it's like when I get compared to a streamer that's 10 years younger than me, it's like I just got done being a high school teacher. It used to be my job to, like, educate people that age, roughly that age. So appreciate it. I'm not going to release my exact birthday last week of the month though, so I'll be 31 soon. Will I take a day off? I don't know. I kind of don't want to. Maybe I do. Anna sent me $2 on Venmo to say, thank you for letting me on your live yesterday. I also wanted to say that erasing Black and Indigenous history from public education is also devastating, as well as how low reading levels are, especially where there is poverty. Plants and kitties. Yeah, I remember your call. Thank you, Anna, for the $2. And thank you for the poignant, it came in a good point in the conversation, that donation, because when one of the things that makes it easier to scapegoat the minorities is if you erase from the education system teaching history about powerful people exploiting minorities in that exact way. So the fact that the Republicans are unconcerned with teaching children about what the Germans did in the 30s and 40s, and unconcerned with making sure that people understand how evil we have been in times prior to that. Noodle, is somebody at the door? I don't think so. I think you're just overreacting, girl. Yeah, so it's all part of Project 2025, right? Like, they're coming after the Department of Education, and fundamentally the situation that we're in is caused by people being uneducated and people being unable to engage fully with this sort of stuff. Oscar and Leo, I'll say it. I don't believe in astrology. Maybe if you watch my show enough, you could probably gather that about me. So I kind of enjoy, like, the fun little banter about how I'm a pretty classic Leo. But I do. I don't actually believe that your time and place of birth is all that associated with your, like, character traits. There are certain things that the sociologists have seen, like particularly in places that have distinct seasons. The place where I live, but not the place where I was born and grew up, is like this. But if you have, like, really dark winters where you live, then, like, being born in the winter versus being born in the summer affects your childhood development, because your stages of development happen in a different type of environment when you're 6 months old versus 1 year old versus 18 months old. Those things really matter. Maybe it affects how well you learn how to walk and run and stuff. But that's, like, sociological minutia, childhood development minutia. I don't believe in astrology. I think it's woo-woo magic. But we are going to talk to Crash Out Ghost after we thank Cosmic for the $5 on YouTube Super Chat. Grew up in rural Kansas. We definitely didn't learn about most of that. Yeah, it's hitting. Crash Out Ghost, the username makes me think maybe I should be hovering the disconnect button. That's kind of the moral of the story these days. How old are you?
I am 36, sir.
What year were you born?
1991.
Okay. You support Trump?
No, I don't, but I did have a question for you.
Super quick, because I'm really trying to find Trump supporters to get some debates done today, but I'll take your question quick and answer it after I kick you.
Since you were talking on basically the border and everything else like that, and speaking about how things need to change within the law enforcement and such, in an ideal situation for you, because I haven't been to many of your streams yet, I haven't gotten to see you speak on them. In your ideal situation, how would you yourself see it reformed? Like, where would you change it or start with?
ICE?
Well, yes, ICE, but getting rid of ICE or reforming it in general to be not shitty.
Well, so I'll kick you. The math isn't mathing, by the way, on the birthday, but I also just don't think that person was under 18, so I don't know. Maybe they said it wrong. I say the wrong age sometimes when I say how old I am. Anyway, to answer the question, I kind of covered it earlier in the stream, which is that I think that working for ICE is so necessarily an evil thing to be doing, even if you're not doing a particularly evil job, because of the evils that are being committed by ICE at large. I don't want any person who works there to be working at whatever immigration and customs enforcement looks like after this is all over. So we just need a reboot. We need a fucking rebrand. That is the sort of thing I want for policing, but there's 2 million police officers and they're all these different jurisdictions. So that's like fucking impossible to affect. And there's, you know, states' rights get in the way. Like there's a whole mess in the way of that happening. But with ICE, it's 30,000 like federal employees. Like it's doable. Like that's the sort of change that was supposed to happen under Doge. Not that type of change. I just mean that like caliber of change. So yeah, fuck all those Nazis. We need them out of the government. We need to not give those people badges and guns and authority. And then furthermore, we just need to make sure that any new organization like better respects the rights of people, better respects public safety. Because, you know, there is the misguided thing that the Trump supporters are being tricked into wanting is like mass deportation at all costs, when in reality, like if you're reasonable, I think we all know there is a public cost that's too great to pay, even if you want mass deportation. And I live here in Minneapolis. I've lived through Metro Surge. It's shitty. It's shitty living in that kind of police state. It totally fucking sucks to have that type of federal overreach in your communities, because it's dangerous. And even if you want illegal immigrants to be deported, even if they were right about them having a negative impact on the economy, it's just not worth it to create such chaos. It's bad for the economy what ICE did here. The estimates are that it cost us $600 million. So we need some non-Nazis to enforce the new laws, and the new laws I want make immigration much easier, because we're okay taking in immigrants. Like there's no need to cut off the faucet of immigrants who want to come into the country. We need them to replace our ever-shrinking younger cohort as our birth rate shrinks, because that's what happens to prosperous countries that have high HDIs. Human Development Index, just a measure of how, you know, good quality of life is, how prosperous a society is. So there's like a bunch of reform that I want. It's a big tangled mess, but I talk about it all the time. Anyway, Ghost-ERZ, familiar username, but I can't remember the caller. Is this a friendly? I don't remember. How old are you?
I am a friendly.
Oh, I'll give you 10 seconds, but I'm really trying to get some debates in today.
Yeah, I'm just kind of interested. Like you're talking about ICE, I'm kind of interested on what your opinion of Obama using ICE and whatnot. And if you're familiar with like ICE originally started as.
Yeah, so like Homeland Security and all of that, like this whole like branch of the government, or like, you know, like sub-department of the government, was created after 9/11 as with the expansion of like Homeland Security out of concern for like who is coming in the country. And then under Obama, it was reasonably effective. So when I talk about like maybe not liking the deportation rules, like maybe not liking the way immigration's handled in this country, it wasn't much better back in Obama's day. It hadn't been politicized and like declared an emergency to a bunch of hateful bigots who are like, you know, falling for that group being scapegoated. So I'm still unhappy with what the immigration system was under Obama, but I don't think Obama was giving like droves of poorly trained federal agents immunity and defense and protection when they violated the Constitution out on the streets, which is why we didn't see people protesting it in the same way, even though Obama's deportation figures were pretty enormous. I think it would have been better to incorporate those people into the economy than deport them. But that's not even true of a lot of them, because he deported a much higher proportion of actual criminals of the sort I have said during this very episode I do want deported. So I'm just like, you know, he was doing the sort of thing that's closer to what I would actually want after all of this is over. I just would want to go further and say, no, hold on. We need to accept more of them into the country. We need to have a smoother process for illegal immigration. We would have so many fewer illegal immigrants if the system for getting in legally was just less broken and accepted more people, which would be good for the economy. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Personally, my viewers know that like I reference things like on January 21st in Muller Park in Minnesota, when I had to wash tear gas out of a 65-year-old woman's eyes who had walked out of her own front door to see what the commotion in her neighborhood was. And the commotion was Gregory Bavino and 2 convoys full of such untrained agents. exercising absolute flagrant disregard for public safety in their crowd control attempts, resulting in things like her getting tear gas. So I had to stop filming and, like, you know, there's video of this on this TikTok account. You can scroll back and find me giving this, you know, woman in her 60s the spiel. Have you done this before? Lean your head back. I'm not going to let you fall. Open your eyes. Look up. Okay, look around. Blink, 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 blink while I pour water in your eyes. Show me that happening under Obama. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Talking about shit like that. I'm talking about the kids who had to go to the hospital because of their tear gas inhalation for the same thing that happened also in January up in Northeast Minneapolis. Camkez says that was me. You guys have probably seen a lot of ICE footage that you don't realize is me, because that's how I got my start on here, is chasing ICE around Minneapolis and filming them. My first viral video is me yelling at an ICE agent, "You gonna move to Argentina when this is over?" And then he looked at me so confused because I could tell he didn't get the joke. So I was like, "Oh, you guys don't know your history. You didn't even get the joke." And then I got like a chuckle from the crowd of people who were blowing their whistles. That video got a couple million views, and that's why I was able to stream to like 10 people instead of 2 people when I started. It's because my account had like a little bit of traction. Got some Instagram followers about it. There are people who know that video in the chat. How fun. Yeah, that was my first, that was what got my foot in the door for having an account that people would actually pay attention to, because it is a grind to get started as a streamer, and I got to skip the grind because I was here on the ground and I was doing content that I, as a creator, was somewhat privileged to be able to make, because I just happened to live in a place where it was really easy to go get fucking insane footage because there was so much insane shit happening here. So I leveraged that into being able to platform myself in the way that I now am. So thank you, that particular ICE agent, for being such a doofus. Thanks for the sunglasses. But a bunch of people know that video. Yeah. I mean, there are probably people watching this stream, or like who are regular watchers, who like don't even remember that's why they originally followed me, because it was all ICE videos back in January before I started streaming. Farah 195, regular caller, but I can never remember which one. Is he a communist? Am I remembering correctly, Jesse? Maybe. Jesse says maybe, but not into the mic. Hello. Remind me your age and remind me who you are, because I know your username. I know you. I'm just not placing you at this exact moment.
That's okay. I'm 28, and I'm the reasonable communist, according to you.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I'm really trying to get Trump supporters today.
Yeah, I know. I did actually want to kind of offer some pushback today. I know we don't normally argue.
Okay, well, I'll take it. The queue's empty.
Sure. I wanted, and sorry about all the trolls you had earlier. I was listening. I was like, my God, like, this dude does not deserve this.
So it goes.
Yeah. But, you talked about Obama's deportations, and, obviously what's going on right now with ICE is really awful. And, people are out protesting in the streets, and those people are getting hurt and sometimes even killed. Which, is just awful. And you said we didn't see that during the Obama era. But my question is, Obama held the record for deportations, and Human Rights Watch and stuff is talking about how the vast majority of those deportations were for very low level crimes like traffic violations or drug possession. And, like you said, people weren't out in the streets fighting over that. But from my point of view, people should have been doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that a lot of those people shouldn't have been deported. I said that his ratio on people who I would have wanted deported was better, and that's the sort of injustice that we're used to in America. It's not unusual for us to overpunish people for small crimes in ways that are completely unfair because rich people or white people don't have that sort of treatment. So the fact that happened to some immigrants under Obama is kind of just makes sense against the background of how unfair law enforcement in this country is. And if we go back to that time, I wasn't all that mad at Obama in particular, because I recognize that as just a problem with policing in America in general, with law enforcement in America in general, which I was fucking furious about, which I was out in the streets protesting. So it's different when we have it weaponized specifically against this group of people for the purpose of scapegoating and promoting the political ideologies of clearly a very fascistic and horrible regime, which I think you and I agree about that last little detail there. So that's the difference that I see. It's just that what happened with Obama blended in with what's been going on in America generally. So I don't, it's not that I don't care about those 900,000 people that he deported. It's just that they fit into the larger cohort of people who had injustices served against them by law enforcement and the court systems in America generally.
Okay, sure, but I mean, I think that's something we should be fighting against. And I mean, it's, according to you, you were fighting against it, so I'm glad. But I guess what my pushback is like we should be out in the streets. I know you are. I'm not talking about you, but the public should be out in the streets just as much under what Obama was doing and Biden as well, just as much as they are when Trump is doing it. Because had Obama come in and abolished ICE, which I think we should have done from the get-go, because ICE was a ridiculous reaction to 9/11. But we should have abolished it a long time ago. And had we done that, Trump wouldn't be doing what he is now, right? Like the funding of ICE and the continuation of growing their budget allows for what's happening now.
Yeah. I mean, we can look at the stepping stones to the terror that we're living in right now, and we can blame a lot of people along the way, including a lot of Democrats. Like I recognize all of that. I just don't think that what was happening with ICE under Obama was an indication that we were necessarily on some path towards something that looks like the 30s and 40s in Germany, whereas that is the pattern of behavior that I see under the current administration.
Okay, well, I kind of disagree with that too, because, and this is the framing I really want to change.
Obama wasn't trying to trick his constituents into thinking that those immigrants were the cause of all of our problems. That's what scapegoating is. He was enforcing immigration laws, but that's not the tactic he was using. And that particular tactic is what's so concerning about the way it's happening under Trump. I'm still very upset about all the bad things that happened under Obama, but they just weren't as widespread. The civil rights violations weren't as widespread. And Obama did not defend them when they happened.
Sure, but I think the framing we need to change is we shouldn't want any of these people deported. Even the ones who are violent criminals. I mean, I want my tax dollars going towards holding them accountable in our own system, right? Because they committed the crime within our system. And I think it's also kind of a made up thing on the conservative side to say like, oh, like these criminals come over here and do heinous crimes and then, just kind of flee and get away with it. And it's like, what in what state are cops not arresting minorities because they did a violent crime because they're immigrants, right? Like, if anything, we both understand that cops are more violent towards minorities. And so, I mean, I just don't want any of them deported. If they've committed a violent crime, let them go to prison. And we could talk all day about prison reforms.
You and I, right, because I was about to say that you and I agree about enough, because you're a fairly reasonable, slightly farther left than me person. All of this needs reform, but there's such a local emergency happening right now in these couple of years in American history that we've stepped away from this background of like, we need to reform law enforcement in America. We need to fix race politics in America. We need to tackle institutionalized racism in a way that makes the socioeconomic conditions that are disproportionately shitty for people who are minorities in this country. We need to keep making that better as time goes on. Like, that's the project. That's what we want to do. But like, hold on. Never mind that for just a second, because we're all going to fucking go to prison if the Republicans win the midterms and this Project 2025 thing keeps happening. So like, I just recognize that as like the bigger issue in terms of, if this, I use the house is on fire analogy all the time. It's like, yeah, well, the house had a bad foundation and some rotted beams and some of the rooms were dangerous, and that's unfair for the people who live in those rooms. Like, that's a whole bunch of shit that's really important to fix about the house. But the living room's on fire. Please get a fire extinguisher.
Right, sure.
Like, that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I understand that. I think this kind of leads me to the point that I was actually originally calling about before I got sidetracked. But I think that kind of leads us to, because, we were talking about how we could look at all the stepping stones that led us here. So my question is to you, because you recognize all these things and you recognize the injustices of the Democrats, even though I totally recognize the Republicans are way more heinous, and the situation we're in right now is a more heinous situation we've been in. We've got 2 years before the election. What are your opinions on abandoning the Democratic Party for the DSA and just kind of seeing where that goes from now until then? And, if we have to jump back on board with the Democrats to, put a pause on the Republicans, whatever. But DSA has been sweeping.
The issue that I take with the words like abandon when it comes to that is because it suggests that there's going to be this like big jump ship moment where like the new DSA party or the new like Oscar flavored, like super left-leaning liberal party that I would design is like what rises, when I just don't think that that's a practical thing. And that's where like me and the leftists really separate, is that I think that those sorts of sudden changes are impractical in politics, or if they happen in society through revolution, it's bad. People get raped and pillaged. Like the societal collapse, very bad. I think it causes societal collapse to try to do that sort of thing by force. So I don't really like those outcomes. I like the more gradual approach where like, I do just think that the societal cost of a societal collapse is so great that the societal cost of gradually transitioning away from establishment Democrats, by which the cost there is having them in power for longer. Maybe that means more bombs drop in the Middle East. Maybe that means that policing doesn't get reformed for as long, but the societal cost won't be as great as like a total societal collapse. So I don't want the word abandon. I want to say how many DSA candidates are there going to be in the legislative branch in 5 or 10 years? Those are the sorts of questions I'm interested in.
Yeah, I can see that, but I mean, we're talking about how it seems really American centric. Do you know what I mean? Like to say our society must prevail, even if it means another country is blown to smithereens.
No, it's
right?
just that I'm weighing all of it. Like I genuinely think that if we have the sort of societal collapse that maybe some of the less reasonable leftists than yourself are promoting, like, yes, we can be upset about millions of people dying in the Middle East. It will be millions and millions and millions of people in this country if we have societal collapse, and I'm just not short-sighted enough to not consider that. So we're a little spoiled in America. We're not used to millions of people dying in a thing. In fact, we just had a bout of it with the pandemic and showed exactly how far our heads are up our asses about it as a collective social zeitgeist around these sorts of things. Americans are not very good at handling strife. The fact that we're so upset about 9/11, and I can say this as somebody whose father worked in that tower and I'm super closely connected to it, and I have an illness from it because I have that like horrible childhood 9/11 asthma that us kids in Lower Manhattan got at the time. Like we are such pussies for being as mad about 9/11 in this country as we are, because the percent likelihood of you being killed by a terrorist in this country is so amazingly low if you just do the math. Like a car, like a 9/11's worth of people die in car accidents in this country every month. Like our perspective on it is so fucking warped. And what I'm saying is that if we have the sort of dramatic change that a lot of the farther left people want, it's going to become like it is over there here, and that's not better.
I mean, I don't think that's a guarantee. I think there have been plenty of revolutions that were really successful. And they haven't had this dramatic, massive collapse of society that you're talking about. I think it's certainly possible, and it's certainly something that you would have to evaluate a lot if you were going to actually do a revolution. And I'm not sitting here saying that, grab your pitchforks, it's time. But I am saying that we can, I think we can do more. I think we can push for farther left candidates, because if anything else, they're very successful. They've had great campaigns. I mean, even someone I really don't like Graham Plattner had a successful campaign up until his latest scandal, which I think is, obviously really heinous. I didn't like him before because I'm not going to vote for a, two-time veteran in the Iraq War, because in my mind, you're a war criminal, whether you're, legally labeled that way or not. But regardless, even someone like him had quite a lot of motion and probably could have won in Maine had, the last scandal not come out. And we have better politicians running than him. Zoran Mamdani swept in New York and stuff. And I'm yapping, so go ahead and respond.
Well, what I was going to say is that's the approach that I think is reasonable. If we can use a word like abandon when it comes to the establishment Democrats by looking at any individual election, whether we're talking about local city council all the way up to the president, and say, as soon as you have a practical vote where your vote matters and you can put a vote for somebody who's better than an establishment Democrat, you should do it. And that is going to become the case in a lot more elections if we allow ranked choice voting into more elections, so that your first choice can be somebody better without you throwing your vote away to trying to protect society from the worst of two evils. That's my greatest gripe with how elections work in America, is that people are forced to vote for somebody they don't like instead of somebody they love to protect us from somebody they hate. And that's just fucking stupid. We have mayors like Mamdani because of those corrections to the system. So because I so value those sorts sorts of changes, yeah, you can abandon the Democrats the moment it makes sense to in the voting booth. And I am trying to promote policies that make it more likely for that to make sense for people in the voting booth. And it is for that reason that I get to douchily say to all the leftists, I think I am doing more for your own cause than you. Not talking to you, Farrah. I'm talking to the less reasonable leftists who are just flipping the table and saying that we should rape and pillage our way to communism, which just isn't going to fucking work, I don't think.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen to get from point A to point B. And that's talked about in a lot of the literature, but I'm not here to, give everybody a reading list. But, I do understand where you're coming from and stuff. I always push for more because, the more, the better, I think. But, I think it is something to think about where even in the scenario where we're talking about societal collapse, which I don't think is all that likely in America if we were to push a little harder. Though I know we're kind of talking about two different things because you're talking about other leftists. But
no. I want to dive in on that because I think that when I talk about Americans being spoiled brats, I just think that one of the things that people don't consider is how fragile the system is and how much of it works for us every single day. Because there's so many things that need to go right for that food truck to show up at the grocery store. And I'm concerned about the safety of those systems if we have dramatic change to politics in this country of the sort that the leftists want. And I don't think that they weigh that risk enough. Like, that's really what I think that it is. We don't have the local resilience that's necessary to resist those sorts of things, which is why the more sensible leftists promote things like community outreach and getting involved in your local politics, your city council, your mayoral race if you live in a small town. Like, that sort of stuff really matters in terms of building societal resilience. I agree with the communists and the socialists of the more hardcore variety on that stuff. I'm just not actually seeing them do that very effectively, and I genuinely think I'm doing a better job sitting here speaking my mind because I think I'm just a little bit more reasonable about like some of the pragmatic stuff when it comes to those approaches.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fair. I mean, I'm an advocate of, we should be going out and working with our local people and getting together and doing stuff like that. So, I think as far as a realistic revolution in America, I think that's how it will happen, if at all. I think if we have enough communities that get together and unionize, have enough communities that are willing to take care of each other and honestly just like skill share with each other, where it's like, Bob down the road knows how to fix roofs instead of giving your money to some massive roofing corporation who's going to do a crappy job on your roof. Give half that to Bob and he'll do it. Stuff like that, and not refusing to participate in the system, but crippling it through community, I think is really the best, the most realistic way that things are going to happen.
I'm going to let that be your last note for today, because this was a super productive conversation, but I'm on the hunt for actual Trump supporters today. And we've got...
Well, happy hunting, man.
I do appreciate you, Farrah. I consider you a friend of the show. In fact, I'm actually going to give you a follow, because I just realized I'm not following your account.
Appreciate it.
You're just so good faith. You're like right up there with Iowa Golfer, where we disagree on a couple of things, but like... It's always pretty.
Check out my music stuff.
I will. It always feels good faith and productive to talk to you, but not for the mission today. Let's go find a Trump supporter. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on.
Well, from one teacher to another. Have a good one. Okay.
Have a good one, Farrah. David, get back in the request queue. Thank you, Bunny, for the $5 YouTube super chat. I saw David in the chat. I don't know, is this the same one? But David is a bitch. Also, thank you for taking the risk for us daily. Yeah, I think it is that, David. I was going to savor it, but you guys got to it with the donation. Jared sent me $25 on Venmo. So thank you, Jared, for the $25 on Venmo. Hey, Oscar, I noticed on Instagram a post in which someone was openly using the N-word. I reported it. It was told nothing broke TOS, and then I got flagged for harassment for using the word racist. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, you're allowed to use the fucking N-word on Instagram, but you get hidden for using the word coward. That's what we're up against. Thank you, Jared. But like, yeah, I'm aware of the problem. I just said this on the show the other day, but I'll say it again. So I have this video of me crashing out. I had a proper fucking scream my head off crash out. That's on the main accounts if you want to go look at that. And I had to, like, the day after it was uploaded, it had like 250,000 views, and I had to go through and unhide like hundreds of comments of people like calling the caller in that case, who I was yelling at, a coward, because they got hidden for saying that he was a coward, but people did not get hidden for calling me anything they want. It's bizarre. I as I moderate my comments on Instagram, I'm aware of that problem. It's huge. And I did get Buy Me a Coffee. Oh, from 2 people. Oh my God. Canadian Vicky, thank you for the $50. She says, keep on keeping on, fuck the chuds. Yeah, she's usually very busy in the YouTube super chat, but I think she wanted to skip the line and get a bigger donation that goes right to my bank account, which the Buy Me a Coffees do. So thank you so much, Canadian Vicky, regular supporter, of viewer of the show, mod over on YouTube, and always busy in the chat. So thank you so much. Sorry I missed it for a few minutes. And then Lucky Phil added $5 on Buy Me a Coffee to say, just wanting to bait the MAGA chuds. You're scared to call in, fucking cowards. I agree. See, David disappeared the moment. Not David C. It's the other David. It's the David with the orange profile picture. He's here a second ago. He said, doesn't sound like Oscar's down for the struggle. He must go. I want him to fucking explain that shit, because that type of accusation about me being a coward is the sort of thing I take real fucking issue with, because I got receipts, buddy. Jesse, have we established if Matthew is friendly or not?
That's what I was trying to figure out. I asked him in chat and he didn't respond, but I did want to say that I saw that David request come up in the queue, and I went, is that bitch David? And he said yeah, and I don't think I'll ever live that down. That was so funny.
Wait, did he say yes when he was asked if he's bitch David?
I was like, are you bitch David? He said yes.
Where? I need to highlight it.
Oh, dude, it was like 20 minutes ago. It was
it's on the screen. We'll find it in the VOD. It got recorded. YouTube chat coming to the VOD soon. Got to work on that. All right, did Matthew answer about whether or not he's...
Matthew is saying he's here, but are you a Trump supporter, brother?
No. People forget. David C, I'm sorry that you caught a stray on that. People maybe thought you were a bitch. You're not the bitch I'm talking about. Infectious Bites sent me $5 on Cash App to say, for the cause, you do amazing work. Thank you, Infectious Bites. Seriously, thank you, everybody. It's absolutely incredible. We've got a pretty full queue, but we've got a couple friendlies, got a friend of the show, and then we got Guard Dog, who I have said I don't quite understand Guard Dog, but I think that's for another episode. We're an hour in, and we had one interesting call where somebody was mad at me about ICE, and then I explained what I thought about ICE, and they were like, never mind, we agree. That's some kind of W. I convinced somebody that we on the left aren't completely unreasonable about immigration policy and enforcement actions. Let's see. Is Matthew in the chat? Typing. He said, sorry, typing. Well, type whether or not you're a Trump supporter. See, Guardsog says, LMO, brother, just debate me. Guard Dog, what's the topic? Pick a topic. Tell me what the topic's going to be in the chat. I'm just trying to do some basic screening. We've got Kathy. Is Kathy a Trump supporter?
Friendly.
Kathy's a friendly. Yeah, we're Guard Dog wants to talk about Iran. Yeah, he debates Iran all the time in the YouTube comments, but he's not a Trump supporter.
Wait.
Which doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe we want. Do I let him in? Do we?
Anti-Trump but pro-war in Iran is a new take.
All right. Are we doing?
I just want to see if Matthew. Yeah, I support the anti-Trump but pro-foreign war.
All right. Remind me how old you are, Guard Dog, and don't accidentally slur so I have to fucking kick you again.
I apologize for that. I realized that was very low class of me, so I do apologize, Glenn.
Okay. So are we right? You're anti-Trump, pro-Trump's actions in Iran?
I will say this. I am pro-Trump's actions in Iran, and it isn't in so much that I'm pro-Trump, but I have a kind of a good overview of what's been going on in Iran for the past better part of 100 years.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that if you expand your lens from I think your time span's right. Last 100 years is good. I think if we broaden it to the Middle East generally, you'll see all the other times we've tried this sort of shit and how badly it's gone.
No, I agree. There's been issues with the Middle East, but I feel like a lot of people approach the Middle Eastern conflicts with the public rhetoric, which I feel, in my mind and in my understanding of the conflicts, is very different from the underlying strategic objectives that we actually seek with the issues. Because it's very hard to sell.
You think that he's playing 4D chess, and there's some ulterior motive that makes what he's doing sensible, and it isn't any of his publicly stated mission operatives disabling their nuclear armament and that sort of thing. Is that your argument?
So I'm not saying Trump is playing 4D chess, because I don't believe he's really that intelligent.
Trump's military.
Yeah, that's correct. Trump's military. Okay, yes, I believe that the Pentagon and I believe that the military is playing a deeper game. I think that some of the objectives do line up with what we've advertised, but I believe that most of them are a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, I don't see good evidence for that. And I will start by saying that I can admit that there's probably, I get restricted for harassment and bullying. That one's not even, that wasn't even you, Guard Dog. That was me for whatever reason. I don't care. We've got a busy enough stream. Blank username in the chat who keeps calling me Timo Dean. Get in the request queue. Say it with your face. Anyway, Guard Dog. I'm not going to do the reset because I think we're doing okay on restrictions, and I want to continue the conversation. Unless the mods say I should restart, I'll listen to them because I trust them. Anyway, yeah, I think that it's fair to say I have always had the benefit of the doubt about things where it's like, if you put me in the war room, like if I get elected president and I get into the war room, I can understand that sometimes in light of a president's campaign promises, they get led into the war room, shown the satellite images that are higher resolution than anything that gets showed to the public or whatever information that they've been protecting to protect, the United States intelligence. And they go, oh, fuck, I have to violate my campaign promise because now I know they've told me how it really is. And maybe we need to do some things that my electorate, my constituents aren't going to find popular. I recognize that sort of thing happens. I recognize that secrecy is important for strategic control and information and homeland security and all of that. But I think it is a huge stretch to suggest that what we're doing in Iran is in some way the result of some 4D chess game to do better, especially in consideration of the fact that somebody who did have access to that type of privileged information was so against exactly all the things that Donald Trump is doing, and that was both Biden and Kamala Harris, because she was vice president immediately preceding her failure to become president instead of Donald Trump. So I think that because we had people who have a different political perspective who did have privileged access to all that, who felt the other way, suggests to me that no, there is no 4D chess game hidden behind closed doors at the Pentagon that if a reasonable person would look at, they would find it reasonable to do these sorts of things. Because if that was the case, we would have seen different action in the Middle East by the Biden administration. So we saw it from the Obama administration. This argument I'm making is one little potential, a devil's advocate kind of grain of agnosticism towards Obama's action. Maybe he saw some shit in the war room that made it sensible for him to bomb all those fucking people. I doubt it, but we see Democratic politicians doing that. It's what the leftists are so upset about. It just doesn't make sense in terms of the evidence we have in front of us as the public right now.
Let me explain a bit about Obama then, because I understand that his drone strikes, for example, have been an issue that you've had in the past. You obviously disagree with them, and I think face value, there's nothing wrong I see with that, because obviously, they're bombing people with 100-pound missiles from on high is a very difficult selling point to average people. And I think there are very good ethical and moral considerations that go along with that. I don't think we should be going around killing people just willy-nilly with fucking guided munitions. Obviously, that's true. But, however, something that I would like you to consider, warfare has come a long way for a very long time. Now, you've talked about World War II and stuff in the past. Back then, warfare was something of a cudgel. It was like a club that you beat people with, right? You go in there and you bomb whole cities to the ground and light them on fire and destroy whole nations. Then you march in there on the ground. Warfare today is very precise. It's like a scalpel instead of a club. And so if we can prevent a lot of conflict down the line by killing the leaders of a few cells here and there, that to me is a worthwhile sacrifice. Obviously, I don't take killing people lightly. Obviously, I'm not condoning wanton murder. What I am saying is if warfare was a bonsai tree, I just want to snip a few leaves here and there in order to produce the effect to stop larger warfare down the road.
Yeah, that's basically just a repackaging of the argument that I recognized a second ago. And, I'll take a moment to read the $2 super chat that says, what strategic play did the 150 dead girls achieve? Because we can talk about blunders like that. But specifically what I'm saying is that, I recognize that type of answer to all of this is makes logical sense. I'm saying I don't believe that's the case right now because it's not consistent with what more reasonable people in the government have done when they're in control.
Okay, so one of the things that you've said in the past, and I'm just quoting you here. You say that we should have kept the JCPOA, for example, correct? Mm-hmm. So you think we would be in a better position now if we had kept the JCPOA? Am I understanding this?
That actually extends what I was just saying, because I think that Biden and Kamala Harris in the executive branch had a more reasonable approach to this stuff, which explains the fact that Biden tried immediately when he became president to put the JCPOA back in effect, but he didn't have the power to because Iran would have to agree to it again, and Trump had thrown it out, so they just declined. They said no.
Well,
so everything I just said about trusting them more, when they were in control, they didn't want to start bombing Iran. They didn't want to give them a few years to develop nuclear weapons and then attack them, which is what Trump intentionally created as the state of affairs. They just wanted the JCPOA back. But I
just want to expand on that a little bit. The thing about the JCPOA is it always had a sunset effect. And what I mean by that is there's a staggering to it, but the beginning of the JCPOA was going to leave about 2020 or so. That was the UN conventional arms embargo was going to leave in 2020. The ballistic missile restrictions were going to end in 2023. The transition provisions were ending in 2023. And pretty much everything else would have been gone by 2025. So had nothing else changed and Trump not done anything, the JCPOA would have been gone about a year ago now if nobody else agreed to anything different.
No, hold on. Yes, you said if nobody agreed to something different, but that's a big if, because if we look at international peace accords and these sorts of agreements, what we find is that they are necessarily sunsetted at some place, because in a negotiation with a terrorist organization, which I consider the government in Iran to be, we're necessarily going to have to give them things that they want. There's a give and take to negotiation. Would it be better to have not released the $1.8 billion of them? Sure. As an American, I can say that was something that we lost, but you necessarily need to take some kind of L when you're doing a negotiation, or the person you're negotiating with isn't going to agree. So sunsetting is one of those things, because we can't say you're not allowed to build nukes for 100 years, because they'll just never agree to the deal.
That's fair.
But what we can do is get 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and then as the sunset approaches, Iran has the opportunity to go, you know what? There's so much less warfare, so much less death and destruction. We're spending so much less money rebuilding bombed shit and just building newer stuff. Look at that. We're building hospitals. Oh my God, look at that. The schools are educating women better. Like, that'll happen slowly, and then they can start, getting some of that progress. But instead, we're stymieing that progress by sending them back into the war-torn state, by not allowing the possibility of the sunsetting deal being replaced by something that continues it, which people in Iran, the 90 million people in Iran demand those sorts of outcomes because they don't want their schools bombed.
Do you mind if I push back just a little bit against this? And the reason why the deal fell through to begin with is basically because we found out, first off, Iran is strategically advantageous to remain a nuclear threshold state. They've seen what happened to North Korea when they developed nuclear weapons, and Iran is not 100% eager to go ahead and rush the bomb. What Iran fundamentally wants on a game theory level is to rush right up to the edge of being able to make a bomb and stay there. And because if they push it too much further, the backlash from the geopolitical community will be very, very, very extreme. They know that, we know that. Now, the reason they basically kind of hesitated on that whole thing and then canned the whole thing around 2018 or whatever it was, is because that was around the time that everyone was getting kind of done with Iran funding the better part of $1 billion a year towards the axis of resistance. And what that is basically just a combination of Shia mercenary armies that are all around the region, Lebanon, Yemen, the Palestinian
So you're bringing just to clarify, you're talking a little fast. I just want to clarify for the audience that I understand your position, and then you can let me know if I understand it. That way we can make sure we're all on the same page here, which is that, yes, when you have an agreement of the sort that I just said is necessarily going to have this give and take because we're negotiating with terrorists, they are going to go up exactly to the line of everything they can do. They're going to keep working on their ballistic missile program because we couldn't get them to get rid of it in the deal. They're going to give money to these groups that are going to do bad things. Like, there are ways in which they're going to try to get around it because they're a bunch of evil fucks. Like, I recognize that. But the question is still just, why is throwing out this deal better? Especially now, like, if we look at how this has gone, like, I mean, the deal's out the window. Is it, right? Like the bombings are happening again. Is the MOU being obeyed? Is Iran going to get their $300 billion to rebuild their military to potentially give to some of those terrorist groups? Like you're not making a good argument. Like, you can point out that those are cons in this pro and con thing that we're analyzing here in this conversation. Okay. But they're very small cons from 10 years ago compared to enormous cons today. How did Trump make it better?
Okay, so I'll say this. First off, if we're going to talk about the $300 billion, it's not coming out of American taxpayer pockets. It's mainly coming out of
Golf Consortium. Irrelevant to my point. My point was that they're going to use that money. They're going to use that money to do the sorts of things that you were just saying is the problem with the JCPOA. So I want you to address what they're going to do with that money instead of where it came from. It'd be worse if it came from the taxpayer, but I recognize it's not.
I was getting there, brother. So basically what it is a big slush fund for civil investments. It's civil investments into infrastructure to rebuild the country. And it's almost all coming out from overseas. So basically, instead of just giving the liquid directly to Iran, what you do is you fund, okay, let's build this school, let's build this road, let's build this like hospital, what have you. We'll fund stuff to make your cities better. And there's the thought process on the entire thing was, in the future, okay, as this is all wrapping up and the proxy war comes to an end, we give you more incentive to remain peaceful than fight. Because as things stand, you ask me, why should we wage war against them? My answer to that was
I gotta stop you. I gotta stop you. Here's the gap. You're looking at 10 years ago and saying, look at how much they're coloring outside the lines. We have this agreement with them, and they're doing all these bad things by coloring outside the lines. And now you're referencing this bigger deal that gives them more financial power by a factor that's greater by 100, by more than 100, because
it's not raw liquid and it's not their money. It's from outside funds, and it's for civil development.
And here you are being like, definitely they're not going to color outside the lines. Definitely they're not going to find a way to leverage any of that money to do things that are evil. Why are you defending them now?
Obviously, there's an argument. There's an argument to say that, okay, any amount of money that you put towards civil development is money that
have no enforcement mechanism. We had an enforcement mechanism under the JCPOA. Like, yes, that money isn't just a pile of briefcases full of cash. I get that, but we don't have the assurances. If we're giving them $300 billion, we in our own country,
we're not giving them raw liquid. We're not giving them raw liquid. The only money they would be getting for their military is money they aren't putting towards the civil sector.
We in our own country cannot assure the American people that $300 billion that's given to a program by the government is being spent well. People on both sides complain about waste, fraud, and abuse. And you're here acting like a $300 billion grant to Iran from whatever source, whether it's liquid or not, is for some reason so ironclad that it's only going to be used for good? Nonsense.
I'm saying it's used for good in the context of we want to help rebuild their country after asymmetrically borderline destroying their military capacity and standoff munition magazine.
That sidesteps my concern.
It does not. It does not sidestep your concern. Your concern is the money being used for bad things, correct?
If 10% of that money is misappropriated in any way that you or I would have a problem with, that is still more than 10 times as much money as was given to them by Obama in the JCPOA. How is that not an obvious concern to you?
Because they had trillions of dollars worth of damage to their military. And even if you took every penny of that $300 billion and put it directly into the military, they're still fucked for 14 years, Quentin. That's why.
Trillions of dollars of damage?
Yes. Trillions of dollars in damage. Over 100 trillion.
No. Those sorts of calculations, dude. No, listen to me. Listen. Those sorts. Listen. You're listening. Use your listening ears. Shut up and listen. Those sorts of calculations go back decades, and they consider the cost of things before we develop technology to develop them cheaply. They account for inflation in the years it's been since large structures were built. You can look at $1 trillion of inflation-adjusted expenditure over the last 50 or 100 years and go, wow, in today's economy, it only costs $100 billion to replace all of that stuff. It is a dishonest way of looking at the figures.
No, it's not. Quentin, if I take two of their most advanced war vessels, you're already talking about like close to $20-40 billion. It's not, it's like, it's an insane amount of money, dude. It's an insane amount of money. Like, it's just so much fucking money.
Yes.
It's
right, and what I'm saying is that $300 billion inside of a decade might be more valuable than $1 trillion worth of investment over the last several decades.
That's obviously not the case if we're talking about the immediate.
If that's obviously not the case to you, you need to explain to me. You need to explain to me how that's obvious. Because if I told you that a computer that you destroyed was worth $10,000 because I built it in 1998 and spent $10,000 on parts for it, I think you could recognize that we could probably replace it for like $400. Probably way less than that. Right?
Allow me to respond to this question
unless what I just said is obviously wrong, then there's something obvious I'm missing here.
Okay, so let me just respond to this question for like 40 seconds. Can you give me that?
After I read Elusive Viper's $2 YouTube super chat, because she pointed out that money is fungible, liquidity is irrelevant. Did I misgender you? I don't know why I think you're a she. I don't know your gender. Anyway, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so hear me out. First off, let's play semantics for a moment. I'm going to go ahead and pretend that every dollar of that is going to be used to rebuild the military, which is not true. I mean, the way the money is orchestrated it's so different from that. But let's pretend the whole thing, okay, is going to be used to rebuild the military. Iran has been in a hybrid warfare state with Israel and some of the Gulf state regions for the better part of 5 years actively. And to be honest with you, what happened was opening volleys between Israel and Iran broke out after we tried disabling in an asymmetrical fashion some of their proxy actors, some of the mercenary armies. We're talking about obviously Hamas, although I don't support obviously the holy war and all that jazz and how extreme it got. But we're talking about Hamas, we're talking about Hezbollah, we're talking about the Houthis, and then SRBM's ballistic missiles were fired at Israel, okay, from Iran. As a result of proxy escalation. What we wanted to do was reduce their ability to escalate. We wanted to alter their behavior, okay, by making them less likely to escalate. And when we talk about destroying their navy, when we talk about destroying their manned air force, when we're talking about destroying the mode of production, okay, for their unarmed or unmanned aircraft rather, and we talk about destroying a bunch of magazines for SRBMs and IRBMs and all that shit, that to me it reduces their ability to really act against the region in a violent capacity.
Listen, no, dude, like here's what's happened. You talked for 60 seconds. You said some stuff that makes sense. You said some stuff that didn't make sense to me. You gave me a big menu of things to talk about instead of the thing that you didn't talk about, which is everything that I just said.
Your point, and correct me if I'm wrong, your point is, why is it better if the money was hypothetically used to rebuild Iran's military? Am I mistaking the point?
Yeah, you're missing my concern completely. I think I laid out the fact that you're disproportionately weighing the cons of the JCPOA from 10 years ago when this MOU is so much worse by those same measures, and you're just not accepting the possibility that we're giving Iran power that they're going to use in ways that we don't like.
And you're ignoring the fact that I'm saying they funded a mercenary army in 3 different countries that entire time.
Yes,
that are occupied by Shia minority.
Right, they're evil. That's bad. And it's bad to give evil people $300 billion.
Why should I pay a country that wants to remain a nuclear threshold state instead of a nuclear state because it doesn't want to be North Korea a bunch of money, even though they're using money to fund mercenary armies that are actively, and this is my point, actively waging hybrid and proxy warfare against other states. They were actively fighting us.
We're getting into gishgallop territory where these are
it's not gish galloping. If I hire a dude to go beat someone up, I'm still responsible for it. Is that correct?
Right. But that's all related and like important, which is what kind of gish gallopers do, is they pick something related and important and they bring it up instead of the specific question at hand, which is why are you so quick to judge what Iran might do with the capabilities we gave them in the JCPOA, but so unwilling to address the fact that we create a massive capability for them to go around the lines or do backdoor deals or find ways to misappropriate this money in ways that we don't want it to be used, which is the sort of thing that evil regimes do.
Because even if I was good to like take your word for it and say 100% of the money is going to be used for bad stuff, okay, let's
hypothesized like a small percentage of it being used for bad stuff, which would still be greater than the financial capability we gave them in the JCPOA. That's what you're not addressing.
Let's pretend all of it is used for bad stuff. It's still
we don't need to. Fucking 2%. 2% would be enough.
Let's say 2%. That's fine. Let's say 2%. That's perfectly fine, brother.
$6 billion.
My point is this, that even if it's 2%, okay, you're talking about the nation being unable to physically respond with violence to back up its proxies, which is exactly how it escalated into warfare to begin with. That's how the war started, Quentin. We were fighting the proxies, and then when they opened fire on Israel after Israel attacked their logistics network, it escalated into warfare. That's how the fire broke out, brother. I don't have to guess about this stuff. I've been studying it for years.
No, you're sitting here being a Zionist instead of addressing the fact that we gave them a pile of fucking money.
I'm not a Zionist, dude. I'm not a Zionist at all. I don't support holy war.
Then quit saying Zionist shit instead of answering my concern about the financial capability that's being handed to Iran. The fundamental question that you're getting around by like demonstrating that you do have a comprehensive knowledge of some of this history is, what did Trump do that made the current state of affairs better than it would have otherwise been if he just left the JCPOA in place in his first term? And I'm just not hearing an answer to any of that.
Because if we left the JCPOA in place, okay, and they're still funding all the proxy efforts, all we're doing is paying them to subvert our security by funding giant mercenary armies in the Middle East.
Those are big leaps you're making.
That's not a big leap. That's exactly what was happening. That's not a leap.
But why are you so unwilling to even consider such a leap with this $300 billion?
Because it's not, first off, that's not what's happening. Secondly, even if it was happening, their capacity for conventional warfare is so reduced now that they can't back up the proxies the same way.
$300 billion, again, you just haven't answered this. You never even recognized my computer analogy about how it would be unfair to say that you got rid of a $10,000 computer that I built in the 90s when you can make a comparably powerful computer out of a fucking pocket watch in 2026. In 2026, $300 billion goes a lot farther than the $1 trillion that had been spent on that infrastructure over the course of the last, 47 years, something like that, if we're going to talk about the current regime. Like, again, You're just not addressing that.
You believe, okay, so correct me if I'm misunderstanding you, because I don't want to misconstrue what you're saying. You're suggesting that Iran would be more powerful after this industrial development than they were before the war. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, I don't know if you're understanding me correctly. I think I've explained it so clearly so many times that I'm not willing to sit here and say that you do understand it correctly unless you actually address my concern.
I want to clarify. I'm not trying to be a shithead. Okay, I really am trying to clarify if that's your point, because I don't want to misunderstand you here.
State it again. I want to listen to your words and be careful.
My question is, and this is just my understanding, reading between the lines of what you were saying, are you trying to suggest that Iran would come out of this development more powerful than they were before the conflict took place?
Yeah, that is my concern. I think that like 10 years from now, Iran is a bigger threat on the global stage than they would have been if Trump hadn't done any of this fucking nonsense.
Okay, so I'm not trying to be like a dick, okay, but like if I have, let's pretend battleships are coconuts, okay? If I have 10 coconuts, okay, and someone comes over and takes 8 of my coconuts, if I spend the next 10 years buying 8 coconuts again, am I really that much farther ahead? Because a lot of those coconuts were to stop missiles from going into their country.
The disconnect here is how many coconuts you can buy for $300 billion.
Not that much in terms of military hardware. Everything's very expensive, my dude. You know, even though their relationships with the relationship with the East is very complicated, dude.
Yes, and Jazz Bearing Crab over on YouTube Super Chat has sent $5 to point out at this point in the conversation that the two biggest funders of global terror are the United States and Israel. Iran isn't doing shit compared to us, which is true.
That's definitely, there's an argument for that. If you count proxy warfare,
who has killed more children in the last? I don't know. Let's go back to the beginning of Trump's first term. Who has killed more children in the last 10 years? The collection of Iran and their buddies, or the United States and Israel?
It's very difficult to say in some ways, and just let me talk for a moment.
If that's difficult to answer at all, you need to stop defending our cooperation with Israel.
Well, no, just let me speak for a moment, and I apologize, okay, if I sound a certain way, okay. I'm really not trying to be weird about this. My point is that when you turn countries like Lebanon, Yemen, Palestine's a great example, into a proxy battlefield, because we're talking about Iranian-aligned Shia militants, okay.
That is what we are doing with Israel.
I'm saying they're waging a war actively. If they didn't want the war with Israel, they could just not fund gigantic mercenary armies that give them an excuse to fucking fight, dude. Like, you're basically, here's the thing. I don't disagree that we do fucked up shit, but you're ignoring the fact that they're funding literal fucking armies, civilians, in multiple countries.
Who has killed more civilians, Israel or Iran?
You're saying in your direct strikes. I would say Israel and the U.S. without Israel.
Why are you calling Iran the terrorists that we need to team up with Israel to defend against then?
Because they fund gigantic Shia-backed proxy armies. And listen, Iran is a very complex country. I actually like them in a lot of ways because I think they're very independent thinkers. I think a lot of them are rational actors. I think the members of their technocratic elite, who aren't a bunch of like theocratic douchebags, I think they're amazing people, to be honest. They're very rational people. The problem
if Iran has killed fewer children than Israel, then why is it okay for us to supply funds to Israel? And why is it then for some reason also okay for us to give funds to Iran? Like, what is this? What the fuck?
It's a semantic point. You're targeting this one aspect of the conflict.
We're giving money to the people who kill children. That's not semantics. That's current American global politics. Like what? No, how is that semantics?
Are you referencing the what was it? A school? Is that what you're talking about? Is that like your big thing, or you're talking about Palestine?
I'm talking about Gaza. I'm talking about Palestine.
Okay, Gaza's terrible. I'm not going to defend that. Okay,
You are sitting here defending it.
I'm defending
our relationship with them. You're saying that our relationship with them makes sense because of the concern that Iran is, and you admitted yourself a moment ago that Iran is a smaller concern when we look at those sorts of things. Iran is not the big terror problem in the United States or in the world right now. Israel is, and we're cooperating with them. So yes, you are defending exactly that.
Okay, hear me out. I'm suggesting that Israel is a questionable nation, and I don't agree with their mode of warfare. I don't believe in holy war. I believe that warfare should be something precise.
Are you running for office? This sounds practiced as fuck.
No, this is just, dude, I'm just trying to speak formally because I accidentally dropped the R word last time, my brother. So my point...
Carefully not trying to say the R word while defending Israel does not make you look like less of a politician to me.
Okay, well, I'm not a politician. I don't like politicians, dude. I tell you that enough. I don't like politicians. I prefer you as a teacher than a politician. I mean that 100%. I wish you still taught, to be honest with you, because I think the amount of good you can do in teaching children. Okay, that's to me that's great. The amount of good you could do teaching children is so much greater in my mind than any politics.
Thank you, Jazz, for the $5 YouTube super chat. Jazz wanted to point out that Israel imprisoned Palestine long before any terror groups cropped up there. Hamas was formed and elected to push back against Israel's open-air prison. Yeah, it's more context. But I bet the caller knows that. But because again, you seem really well read on the history, which makes it even more obvious to me that you're a Zionist and that you are just defending Israel for some reason that we can't quite get to.
I believe that our strategic objectives align with Israel. I think they're useful. I don't necessarily agree with them as a whole.
I'm sorry. The country that you admit is killing more children than Iran, our strategic objectives align with theirs? Were those the words out of your mouth just now?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. I don't need to defend it. I've rationalized this already. It's not...
To yourself. You do need to rationalize it to the rest of everybody else. And I'm going to let you take a moment to consider exactly where you are in the conversation and how exactly you're going to try to keep rationalizing that. Well, I think, Jared, for an additional $25 on Venmo, don't forget the head of the counterintelligence and the DNI said Trump lied. Yeah, we do actually have some dissent among people who have given up really serious, important career positions in the United States to come out and speak out and essentially be whistleblowers against Trump's claims about national security regarding all this stuff happening in the Middle East. So there is like evidence against that. David sent $5 on Venmo to say trillions and trillions. Grandiose speaking is directly from the Trump playbook. Again, he's pulling some fucking politician cards. The sort of floundery, imprecise language that he's using when I'm asking him these very direct considerations and comparisons about the things.
Hey, when I use precise language, you called me a Phil bro, my brother.
I think when you overuse precise language about things that are simple, that makes you a Philbro. When you get precise about stuff that should be pretty straightforward, like who's killing more children here, that makes you a Philbro. Like
you need to make something complex before you can make it simple, because then you know what's important about the argument.
Some things are complex, some things are simple. I think a person who can speak simply about something that's simple and somebody who can speak complexly about something that's complex probably just knows what they're talking about. I judge it case by case. I don't care about playing simple or complex whack-a-mole with you. I care about you making sense of your position in this conversation, which I see as nothing other than an orange taint suckling Zionistic one.
Well, okay. Well, I don't understand the ad hominem insult. I don't feel I deserve that, brother. But my point is basically this. I approach the situation from a much more pragmatic, over-the-top standpoint. You could say, okay, who kills more children? But if we're talking about the considerations in the context of hybrid warfare, proxy warfare, game theory, the realistic expectations of states, you yourself admit that a lot of the people that we're fighting against here are pretty bad actors, okay? You know, I mean, obviously, obviously a lot of them don't even represent.
Yeah, and you're just rambling about all of this instead of addressing these direct comparisons I've made between the way that you talk about Iran in a Trump context versus Iran in an Obama context, or the way that you talk about terrorism in an Iran context or versus terrorism in an Israel context. You've demonstrated yourself wholly inconsistent on that. And then every time
so, in what sense am I inconsistent about it?
Dude, I'm just feeling like you're being disingenuous at this point.
Okay, you feel I'm being disingenuous, and let me ask you: is the reason you feel I'm being disingenuous, based on your last remark, is the reason because you think I'm a hypocrite because I don't condemn us for the same mistakes and crimes that I would condemn our enemy for?
Sorry, I was distracted by this super chat. Because again, I'm getting so lost in the sauce talking to you because you're just not actually addressing any of these things I'm trying to pin down. NES Josh 64 sent $5 to say, why do you think Iran started funding those militant groups in the first place, caller?
Oh, what was the question? I apologize.
Why do you think Iran started funding those militant groups in the first place, caller?
Okay, so Iran started funding those militant groups. We had a proxy resistance effort formed in Syria around 2011, okay, when the Syrian civil war broke out. And then Iran was basically supporting the Assad regime. And what happened was we ended up on opposite ends of a proxy warfare within Syria, and then we paid them by establishing a nuclear deal, even though they were going to remain a nuclear threshold state, to not fund as many proxy efforts because we realized they were holding us back. This was 2011, not that long after Russia had devoted itself in 2008 to a multipolar world strategy. And so basically what Iran was saying was, look, we want a multipolar world. We don't want this sphere of influence to go over to the United States and Israel. And so what we're going to do is we're going to fund this proxy army to try resisting that.
Quinn sent $5 to say, holy chat GPT. Yeah, I like here, in case you've answered it, because I don't think you have. Why is it better now than it would have been? Because we're defending Trump's actions in Iran, right? We keep going down this rabbit hole. Yes, this is all very interesting. I will admit, you are educated on some of this deeper history in a way that's a little deeper than I am. I can admit that because I'm just honest enough to. I still am just, even with your expertise, I'm not hearing an explanation of why what he did is good.
So are you asking me, is this specifically Iran?
And the chat's calling bullshit. Syria? You're kind of history dumping on me, and the chat's calling bullshit, and I tend to trust my chat.
Okay, they could say I'm making it up. I'm not here to convince the chat of anything. I'm here to have a
whether
debate
you're making it up or not, it's not convincing me that what Trump is doing in Iran is good.
My point in general, as far as that's concerned, okay, you could say it's like a Trump thing, but really it's a Pentagon thing. And this issue goes back a long ways. Do you know how conflicts really started?
I'm just going to keep reading the donations until I get an answer that I feel like is even addressing some of these direct comparisons I've made. Because Lucky Phil sent me $2 on YouTube Super Chat to remind me that he sent me $2 twice on Buy Me a Coffee to say nukes was the excuse. Supporting Bibi was the reason. Israel has said Iran is weeks away from nuke for the longest time. Several presidents agreed to support Israel in defense, but refused to strike first. Trump and his crew were neither dumb enough to believe this at the time, or he has other reasons to stay on Israel's good side. I think Epstein created blackmail material against the rich and powerful on Israel's behalf. I think that's possible. That's a little bit of speculation, but I think it's fucking reasonable for us to think it's something that goddamn silly given what this administration has been doing. And then he added, I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. There they are, all standing in a row. Big ones, small ones. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot. I missed the bit here. Let me try again. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. There they are, all standing in a row. Big ones, small ones, some as big as your head. Give them a twist and a flick of the wrist. That's what the showman said.
Well, that was an excellent impression, brother.
I grew up in the same place as Trump. I'm good at the accent.
Where was that? Atlantic City? What the fuck?
Manhattan.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where he grew up, but yeah, he does just sound like an old dude from, my neck of the woods.
My family actually did a bit of business with him like 20 years ago, but he turned out he was a huge dick. He tried not paying them and shit. He's a real piece of shit, brother.
Yeah, I know that you don't like Trump, but I'm still trying to understand why you like what he's done in Iran. Makes no fucking sense to me at all. And
the Middle East in general, I mean, it's a shithole, okay, but it's a very tentative balance, and it's a war we fought for a long time. If we go back with the issue in Iran, it all started even before World War II ended. Britain and the USSR occupied Iran forcibly and took a bunch of their oil and used it as a logistical pipeline to feed the Soviets a bunch of shit. they hated the East as much as they hated us for a long time. That's how we ended up using it as one of the pillars to support the Gulf states for quite a long time before the rebellion.
I just don't. I think that your perspective on all of this only makes sense if you don't value children dying.
That's not true, and the reason I'll say this is because
it is 100% true that I think that. It's 100% true that I think that about you.
Let me respond fairly, okay? Just let me respond, okay? I don't believe that's the case, and I think that condensing the issue to something as simple as like, oh, do you like dead babies? Like that to me is a platitude. That to me is rhetoric. And that to me is dishonest because the issue itself, it involves so much more nuanced stuff. It involves geopolitics, complex history, sociology, religion.
Stop. You accuse me of being dishonest. I honestly believe you don't value children dying enough. I believe that with my fucking heart. Are you calling me a liar about that?
Well, okay, if you truly believe that I don't value children dying enough, consider that I truly believe that hybrid warfare and proxy warfare has up to this point prevented World War III. And I think that World War III would result in a lot more dead children than proxy war or hybrid war. So I think that if the choice is between cutting off your finger and cutting off your arm,
you're suggesting that you're talking about this invisible game of 4D chess that's happening at the Pentagon that the public can't see, and you're assuming that it's happening in some such way that's better for children the world over, when we're pretty fucking sure that that's not really the modus operandi here in the United States. And I just think that you're trying to use fucking clairvoyance to say that. What evidence do you have to suggest that the 4D game of chess that we all can't see because of national security being protected by secrecy, which I can recognize as a reasonable strategy? Like, how you're making a big leap to be like, we're bombing all these kids to protect kids.
I'm not saying, okay, that's a fair remark. Okay, obviously, if you, again, reduce it to that, I think it weakens the argument. But in my mind, it's a bit of a Mott and Bailey. Like, basically, I feel like you're retreating to a place where the argument is more substantial because obviously from an emotional standpoint, as opposed to an intellectual standpoint, emotionally, it's easy to get behind. Obviously, kids shouldn't die. Anyone reasonable and anyone decent would say that. But intellectually, it's more complicated.
I've been sitting on this the whole call because I was kind of undecided, but Tavi just sent me $10 on YouTube Super Chat to make the decision for me because he said we need a camera. You're not going to bash the Middle East and call it a shithole with no personal identity. Kids are dying, man. I think I am going to demand that you turn your camera on to proceed with the conversation.
I'm not familiar with TikTok. How do I do that, brother?
Oh, let's see. Let's make sure that you have the option. Oh, no, the option's not there. Yeah. Which means your account probably, I believe you when you say you're not familiar with TikTok. Sounds like you haven't participated in too many lives. Though, I will say, for everybody watching, this is a person who's been in my YouTube comments for like months. I see a notification from you like every day. So we can, I will let it slide because the people are, I think it shows up on the YouTube stream. Does it show up on the YouTube stream when I show that I can't get his camera on? I get the little, you can see it's grayed out, the little camera here below the microphone. There, saved in the VOD. People know that you're not lying. Anyway, I'll let that one slide with if you want to keep coming back and talking about this stuff, as soon as that button lights up, I want it. Because dude, I think it was in the Discord, somebody said that this is like a nationalistic stance instead of a humanistic one, and I am just a humanist first. Like, I just care so much about people fucking dying and all this suffering, and that's not the lens I'm seeing from you as you talk about this stuff.
I think being able to have that moral standpoint is a privilege in and of itself, and I think if you have a nuanced appreciation of the implication of privilege. I think if you're talking about people who don't have to make difficult decisions, if you're talking about people who don't have to think about the world more as it is instead of how it isn't, you're making basically a normative assessment of the world by saying this is the way it should be. Should there be bombs dropping on children? Obviously not. No one sensible, no one even remotely moral at their core would ever advocate for that. Okay.
Right. But we the people need to support the actions of politicians who we think through whatever normative lens, to grab that little piece of Philbro vocabulary throughout there. Yeah, the normative lens that I have for ethics is something like utilitarianism. I put the Rawlsian asterisk on it because I really like John Rawls's criticism of utilitarianism. I think it addresses some important problems with utilitarianism. So I have that normative structure. Like, it's foundational. It's well read. It's something I've given fucking lectures on at the college I went to. Like, I get it. I do all that shit. The president needs to convince us he's not bombing kids without good reason. Like, he's not doing that. You're not doing that. You're suggesting that it's behind closed doors that the reason exists. And all the way back earlier in this conversation, I pointed out that when we had people like Biden and Kamala Harris who were able to see behind those closed doors, they didn't come to the same conclusion. So the idea that it's obvious to any thinking person what we have to do in the Middle East is right based on your perspective is wrong to me, because I trust Kamala Harris and Joe Biden more than I trust you, guard dog.
Do you mind if I reframe my remark a little bit?
I don't know which remark you're talking about, but sure.
Okay, so instead of focusing the lens purely on the Middle East,
I mute myself while you do that because my dog's barking. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Instead of focusing the lens purely on the Middle East, I would like for you to focus the lens on the difference between unipolar spheres of influence and multipolar spheres of influence. And so what I mean by that is, think about like the fact that we can't get away from gasoline, for instance, even though we have hybrid technologies, we have electric cars, we have hydrogen, we have biodiesels, all this sort of stuff that we could in theory use to replace a lot of the logistical infrastructure, except for like, you know, big cargo vessels and shit like that. The world will not stop symmetrically developing against itself in competitive fear until there is a dominant sphere of influence that can rein shit in. Okay, because basically everybody's
so
competing with
nationalism each other. Again. This solidifies my concern that you're being a nationalist. You need the United States to be the unipolar.
No. I don't even want the United States to be the center of it. What I want the United States is to be the economic corner that can enable the rest of the world to kind of come together on
through
its
some
own.
other thing, through some other label. Exactly what I said. Yes,
through central banking infrastructure.
Yeah, through those things.
Power.
It's exactly what I said.
Soft power, which is better than war.
Great.
You say you don't support
exactly
warfare,
what
correct?
I said.
You don't want
through
war.
those things.
You don't want war, right? You don't want war.
I don't want suffering.
Okay, you don't. That's a big statement. There's always going to be a bit of it. But if the thing you're against is warfare, soft power is the best chance you got.
No, war is a means to an end. War is bad because of my opinions on suffering, because of my utilitarian, normative, ethical perspective that considers Rawlsian's critique on utilitarianism. If you need me to like show my Philborough badge at the fucking door to show you that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to fucking ethics. You're being slippery about the labels of this shit because you're doing the thing that you accuse me of doing, where I'm saying like, oh, killing kids is bad. So like, you're just going to use that as the Mott and Bailey to make it look like my guest is like defending killing kids or whatever. When in reality, I recognize that sometimes war is the answer. I'm not so foolish to think that countries can't defend themselves. I'm not so specifically anti-war. I'm anti-policies that don't satisfy my normative perspective on ethics, and war is a tool in that toolbox. It is a dangerous one. It is a scary one that we should avoid having to use at all costs. In the same way that when we talk about the house being on fire, flooding the house isn't much better, but we recognize it's better than it being on fire, which is why we have sprinkler systems that destroy homes with water damage, because water damage doesn't kill people, but fire does. So I recognize the tool in the toolbox. I just don't think that I think you care too much about the tools in the toolbox and who's in control than the actual ends that these means get us to, which is suffering and whatever. I don't know what your normative perspective on ethics is. It doesn't seem like you have a very solid one.
I think it alleviates a bit of suffering. Here's the thing. Do you know Clausewitz at all?
No.
Well, whatever.
Maybe I do. I've read a lot of philosophy and I'm bad with names, so maybe I do. But it's like when people ask me if I've heard a musician, I put on their most popular song, and I'm like, yeah, this guy. But when somebody tells me their favorite philosopher and their Philbro on my show, maybe I don't know them until I look up what paper they wrote, and I go, oh yeah, this shit. Did a semester on this in college.
No, I get it. Here's the thing. He's not even a philosopher. Basically, he was just this Prussian dude. And what he said, he was trying to warn his country against the military from running it from the inside. He was trying to warn it against becoming a military industrial complex. And what he said, was warfare is politics by different means. Okay, and so that's the kind of thing I want you to think about. I want you to think about the fact that warfare is basically just the natural extension of policy. Is it unsavory? Is it a risky mechanism? Absolutely. It's not. Obviously, it's not a good thing. And anybody who likes warfare hasn't experienced it. There's no question about all of that. And you should be reluctant. And you should hold people accountable. I don't judge you for saying, hey, what the fuck? Why'd you blow up a fucking school full of children? Because that's fucked up. And some head should roll over that. There's no doubt about it. I don't give a fuck if Palantir's responsible or whoever was behind the CIC.
David sent me $5 on Venmo to say my best guest impersonation, blah, 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 yap, yap, blah, blah, yap.
I don't know. Look, man, I'm not here to appease their mental dexterity, whether or not they can follow what I'm saying.
No, you should be. You should be, because there's 800 people watching this show, and I really say on this show all the time that I work really hard sitting in this chair to make my audience understand what the guest believes, and it's hard when talking to people like you who overcomplicate these things and are unwilling to answer directly when I bring up very specific comparisons about the things you yourself are talking about. I'm sitting
Not my
here
intention.
I think I understand you pretty well. I'm just trying to get my audience to understand you. Otherwise, we could have the conversation in private, and that's just not really what we're here to do.
Not my intention, and I do apologize for that. And in some ways, you said earlier that like being able to simplify an argument shows like good comprehension of it. I am not a teacher by trade. I find it difficult to bring the resolution of my ideas down to where it would be easy to explain to some people. I know I don't come across as like, you know what I mean, like the most comprehensive or eloquent dude to like a regular person. I totally get that and appreciate that. So I apologize if that's how I'm coming across. I genuinely am just trying to communicate my ideas.
Well, it's just that I think that you're, when I accuse you of doing some of the Philbro things, it's like the Philbros make this cardinal mistake of speaking to the public, which is, you know, I can call it speaking to the public when you call into my show because of how many people are watching. And what it really is that you can take a college course on philosophy and say a sentence that has 10 vocab terms in it and really clock it and nail it for exactly how your particular professor defined those things, or exactly
right.
like which philosophers you read on those topics, and you can have a really nuanced, beautiful idea. But it's going to fall on deaf ears, and you're going to look like an asshole because you're assuming that everybody knows all those vocabulary terms and failing to recognize that there are possibly multiple sensible definitions for all those vocabulary terms. And you're doing the same. You're doing the same thing, but you're doing it with history instead of philosophy, which is that you have a perspective on all of these individual conflicts and pieces of history that you're bringing up. And by bringing up so many of them so quickly, you are just assuming that me and everybody watching have enough background knowledge to assess what you're saying and have it have the value to the conversation that you obviously see, because you are sitting looking through your own mind's eye at what it is you're trying to say to me. I'm pretty knowledgeable about this history, and I'm getting fucking lost in the sauce. If I'm getting lost in the sauce, the audience has no fucking clue what's going on. I will, even if it makes me look like an asshole, I will say that that's one thing that I like about running this show, which is that I've done a lot of school. I was studying history and philosophy of science, which is a really broad spectrum way to look at academia. I have a lot of time getting my axe to the grindstone reading on this stuff. So if you're talking to me and you're getting lost and I'm getting lost in the sauce, you're probably just not making much sense.
I mean, I feel like I'm making sense, but it's totally possible that the way I'm trying to communicate the ideas isn't. And to be fair, I really have not practiced being able to communicate these ideas too frequently. So you know what? It totally might be my fault. I'm probably rushing through a lot of history and a lot of terms. I mean, there's some things in there that you only hear at like text or war college or whatever, and it's not. Well, it's a hard conversation to have with people.
My concern, and this is kind of what I'm going to accuse you of, is that like additionally, the thing the Philbros do and the things that you're kind of being like a history bro instead of a Philbro is that I suspect, based on some of the parts of your perspective on this that I do understand, some of the parts of this conversation where I haven't gotten so lost in the sauce, I've come to know you a little bit, and I suspect that all those individual perspectives you have on these historical things is through a biased lens that I don't like. And that's what happens with the Philbros, where if you study philosophy through a misogynistic lens, you can find little bits of philosophy that defend your misogyny and ignore the rest of it, ignore the context, and ignore the scale, and ignore the comparisons, and come onto a show like mine and regurgitate a bunch of Philbro shit that feels like it makes sense to you, but everybody's watching being like, why is this fucking misogynist yapping about a bunch of fucking nonsense? Clearly they're being a misogynist. And I think what's happening right now is that me and my audience are sitting here saying, why is this Zionist sitting here and yapping about fucking history when they're so obviously being a Zionist?
I think from the outside it would sound like I'm supporting Zionism because obviously I maintain a stance that I'm not pro-Israel in the way that like people think. What I am pro is a unipolar environment. I am for an environment in the Middle East that is more stabilized, and I am against the erection of large mercenary armies. Obviously, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, all that stuff was just a means to an end. And I think that if when we give the money to when we give the money to Iran and they bring themselves back up and they rebuild all their infrastructure and stuff, if the technocratic elite and the sensible ones replace those people who are very theocratic and very reflexive, and this used to be a country full of Persian people. They weren't originally like Arab extremists.
You're doing it again. You're just going down the rabbit hole. So I'm going to read the donations while you think and maybe try again.
Go for it.
We are going to run out of time, but I'm just not seeing past it. So thank you, Ellie, for the $25 on Buy Me a Coffee. Are you familiar with Project Lavender and Habsora? I'm not. I will read that and check on that later. And then Jazz sent $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say Iran hates us specifically because we helped the UK and the USSR take over their oil by overthrowing their government. This isn't a new thing. It's got layers. Yes, that's like kind of broad strokes on some of the history. Snake sent $5.
That's partially correct.
Snake sent $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say war crimes are war crimes. Human rights violations should not be weaponized to achieve political ends. They should override political nuances. That's kind of where I'm sitting from. It's like we can sit and talk the political nuance, but we're just like not valuing the fucking suffering enough. And then One Tall Queer sent $5 to say the guest is basically Geneva Convention, more like Geneva Suggestion. Yeah. Burn. And then Lucky Phil sent $2 Australian to say Callar sounds like a big Weezer fan. Kind of an inside joke with Lucky Phil's donations if you've been listening for a while. And that Kenny Boy 92 sent 10 euros on YouTube Super Chat to say we are not in the powder keg of the late 1800s Europe, guest, where warfare was an extension of politics. The majority of the world has moved beyond this, especially since World War II. Yeah, you talked about like modern warfare being like a scalpel. Well, I don't think that we can call what's happening in Ukraine a scalpel. Like there's still real danger for that sort of stuff happening. And if we look at most of the countries that actually participated in World War II, most of them have moved on to not doing warfare at all. We should be one of them.
Can I speak out a little bit about Ukraine after you're done?
One more, because Gio sent $2 on YouTube Super Chat to say MAGA Nightmare Queen rotation, go. We need to know. I don't actually understand.
Cash Patel, Pete Hegseth, and Christine Ohm. You're welcome.
Oh, there we go. Oh my God. And I'm sorry. I do have more to read because Jared sent another $25 on Venmo to say, Oscar, what is 2 + 2? Caller, let me first explain advanced calculus. That's kind of the problem that we're running into here in a nutshell. I appreciate that perspective on it.
I apologize.
And then Meredith sent, well, you can be sorry for it. But again, it's like, you can take that as advice from me about how to like participate and communicate on the show better, but it really does get to like a more cardinal character sin, which is that I think you've actually learned all this history through a bias that leans you towards a particular conclusion instead of just learning it all honestly and coming to a sensible conclusion about it at the end. Meredith sent $5 to say obfuscating lack of convictions in Philbroese. Yeah, we got a history bro on the line. New label. What's up? I'll let you talk in a couple more minutes, but we're gonna run out of time on this.
Okay, so obviously the Ukrainian conflict was, that's not a scalpel at all, okay? It's basically trench warfare. I'll just go on a limb and say, like, to condense the entire point, and it's so much information, but basically Russia realized that, like, going into, like, the late, like, 2030s, early 2040s, they weren't going to be able to keep their country running. So what they had to do was lash out as quickly as possible and seize the shit they can before the borders kind of solidified. They wanted to be able to extend their symmetrical development a bit longer, be able to keep their country running. Like they wouldn't be able to make enough guns and bombs to compete with other people making guns and bombs. That's a big part of it. So they couldn't adequately defend themselves. I'm oversimplifying now.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. This maybe is the bit that ends the show, which is a little bad faith because I do feel like you're being to some degree good faith. I just think I'm calling you out on it. But David sent me $5 on Venmo to say I'm going to spam donos to prevent the yapper from yapping. So I've got a few more from David to read. Oh shit, they're still coming in. Fuck. Yeah, he says no yaps for thee, and then he sent another $5 to say yap denied. And then see, I could be cutting him off with each of them, but I'm actually just not going to do that because I do think Guard Dog is like a better faith caller than that. Red flag for yapping, sit out. Yeah, David, W's in the chat for David. Longtime viewers know David is fucking hilarious, and David is surgical with his donations. He tends to send them at moments that really guide the show in an often very entertaining way. David knows I need to be entertaining for the show to be successful, and he's making the show successful by making it entertaining and profitable because he sent me another $5 to say no pseudos yap. I'm gonna lose track of these, David. The stack of them is getting too fucking tall. And then Steve sent $2 on YouTube Super Chat to say U.S. unipolar hegemony creates the instability. I agree, but I am out of donations.
But yeah, I mean, I would love to give you the opportunity. You say that some of my beliefs are probably built around some type of core bias, whether the bias is conscious or unconscious. Now, I know this is obviously I'm putting you on the spot, and it might be a bit of a stretch, but if you had to point a finger to that bias, what would that bias look like?
Nationalism, U.S. hegemony. I think you see value in our cooperation with Israel that benefits like us being secure instead of the world being a better place, which makes you a Zionist. But I think your Zionism stems from U.S. nationalism.
That's a fair assessment. I think that if you didn't know me, I think that if you didn't know me, you would think that I'm just about America. But truly, my thought process is, and this is really it. I think with strategical inclination, I try to look to the future, not just like 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years, but like literally to the end of the century at times. And my thought process is I truly feel like the most amount of harm could be reduced by basically pushing states towards certain behaviors earlier on to prevent bigger wars down the line. It's kind of like, you know how you have those people when they're going to like methadone clinics, they talk to agents who are like, hey, would you like to take less drugs? Warfare is heroin. I'm trying to get people on methadone.
Kicked for the use of a substance name, which again, I think was a mistake. I was like, ooh, the M one. I was sitting here thinking, do I need to kick him for that? And then he said the H one. But the show was over anyway, so I was actually like sitting here being like, where do I get a word in edgewise to say we're done for the day? Thank you, Joseph. I missed your Cash App like an hour and a half ago. He said, great job, Oscar and team, Noodle, all of them. Yeah. Infectious Bites said he doesn't see the forest through the trees. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like he's got like he knows everything about all the trees. He doesn't know a damn thing about the forest. And that's kind of where we're at with that. I'm just gonna cycle through and make sure that I get all the donations because they tend to roll in at the end of the show. But if you enjoyed the show, you can go to the link tree in my bio and follow me on YouTube if this isn't where you're currently watching it, because that will allow you to watch the show 24 hours a day, because there's like hundreds of hours of me yapping away on there talking to these people. If you're still watching here on TikTok, get following the other backup account. This is no longer Oskar Quentin 2 down here. This is Oskar Quentin Music. The follows were slowing on Oskar Quentin 2, so I'm switching to the other one. Backup account. Let's get all 3 accounts to 10K so I can be unstoppable on TikTok when the band's hammers start coming. Yeah, other than that, what else? Housekeeping. Jesse, you got anything?
YouTube super chat most recent is new.
No, you missed it when I read that one. I did read Sudeep's $2 YouTube super chat that says U.S. unipolar hegemony creates the instability. I said I agreed with it.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay. Better read twice than zero, right? I appreciate the caution there. But yeah, we got the Sunday show, 7 p.m. Central Time on YouTube only. So do make sure you're following me over there if you're watching on TikTok, even if this is your preferred streaming platform, because we do the uncensored show with special guests, 7 p.m. Central Time on Sundays. And then whenever that wraps up, we're usually around 9:30, we start a members only stream with just all the members on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, where it's just like chill, like not radio yapping. It's just like, like FAQ, AMA type hangout stuff. If you're interested in that sort of thing, we do that sort of thing. Thank you, I Hate Milk, for the $5 YouTube super chat. And I've seen your messages about wanting to get to a show. We'll get something arranged. I think you and I are going to hang out sometime soon. Anyway, that's the show, unless producer Jesse has anything that I've forgotten. No YouTube super chats that you actually forgot me reading. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back 10 Central tomorrow here on YouTube and TikTok. Goodbye, TikTok. And goodbye, YouTube.